All right, a very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck once again. Welcome back to the stream. It's me, Captain Nabs, with you once again for another Pilot's Life live on Twitch stream. And as you can see, we are sitting inside the terminal waiting to board our lovely JetBlue A320 Airbus out there. It looks pretty murky. It was snowing a moment ago. I think it is kind of still snowing. And the funny thing that I did notice after I set up this view is that it's snowing inside the terminal as well as out. So, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, you can't how much could you really ask for? Okay, so the weather, the people who created the terminal obviously didn't create a mask that blocks the weather from getting the rain and the snow from getting into the terminal. All things being equal, I don't think they really anticipated too many people actually being inside the terminal looking at the airplane. So I'm not complaining. I think it was amusing when I noticed that it was snowing a little harder about 10 minutes ago when I first said. Pardon me when I first set this up, and yeah, I just thought it was a little amusing anyways, but considering how good the sim looks overall, I'm always willing to overlook like some of these minor little glitches and difficulties that happen here and there. So yeah, I'm not going to complain too much about that, but yeah, welcome everybody back to the stream. I want to apologize, first of all. It has been about 7 weeks since my last stream, I believe. I think December 17th was the last time I streamed, so it's been almost a full 2 months. That was never my intention, and for those of you that were worried that maybe the channel is dead, it's not dead. I am definitely still here. I want to continue producing live streams. It's just simply been so busy. I just can't even begin to express how busy it's been for the last little while. So I'm just going to kick myself in there. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the live stream. Yeah, between so many things that were happening in my life, and I thought maybe last week or even the week before I was going to find a little bit of time, and just other things just came in and just sucked up all that time that I thought I was going to have, because this is not a short endeavor. This is like a 3 to 4 hour endeavor every time I want to do a live stream. So it's something that you can't do spontaneously in a short period of time. You've got to have some time set aside for it. And so between everything that's happened in the last little while, first there was Christmas, of course, and that's always a busy season. You've got people to visit, shopping, and spending time with the family because everybody's off school, off work. Well, most people aren't off work, but at least the kids are off school, so it's a chance to spend more time with them when you wouldn't otherwise get a chance. So that quickly took up the rest of December. January, I also had training ongoing at the same time. So for the last 3 to 4 months, I have been undergoing training that finally ended mid-January. But I tended to take most of my spare time and pour it into that. So I did try to do the occasional stream, but especially as it sort of approached the end game, I found like I didn't want the distraction. I wanted to be able to focus and make sure that I was getting through the training, getting everything done. So that's kind of snowballed in the end of January. And then since mid-January, I just don't know. I've just like every day it's something else. There's always something coming up, whether it be obligations for kids, less work days off, because when I was in training, my schedule was a little bit lighter. Now it's pretty solid again. I get 2 to 3 days off every week. By the time those 2 to 3 days roll around, I got stuff to do. I got so much stuff to do. I can't even believe it. So, yeah, that sort of is how we've ended up where we've ended up, and it's been 7 weeks. But let's get this flight going here today. And one other thing that you guys may notice, for those of you that are keen observers, if you put this in full screen mode for a couple of seconds, you may notice something new and different. Captain Nabs is now coming to you live in HD. So. Part of the post-Christmas season, I did finally get myself that long-awaited new graphics card. I ended up with an RTX 4070 is now sitting in my computer, churning through the graphics for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I've managed to up the resolution for Microsoft Flight Simulator and up the resolution for the stream. So this simulator, I believe, is running at 1440. I'm going to be streaming out at 1080. I think that's a reasonable compromise, better than the 720 I was doing before. Hopefully you guys will notice the detail a little bit more. Hopefully things on the flight deck will be a little bit easier to read. For me, it's easier because I'm looking at the 1440 screen. I realize it's being downscaled when it goes out there on the stream. So sometimes I point at something on the screen and say, I see that ECAM message, and I can read it clearly and you guys can't. So I'm hoping that I'm still a little bit higher resolution than what is going out on the stream, but I'm hoping you guys will be able to follow along a little bit better and see things a little nicer, a little crisper on the screen. So Captain Nab now live in HD. I'm just happy about it. It was something I promised myself for so long. It's nice to be able to do it, and it does make the sim run. And it's funny, like when you finish upscaling, and I also turned up most of the graphic settings in the sim. So I've upscaled and turned up most of the graphic settings in the sim that I'm back to just a little bit better than the frame rate I was doing before. Right now, I can see the little icon in the corner, and it says it's doing about 25, 26 frames per second. If you use a default airplane in the simulator, I'm up to I'm up past 60 frames per second. It's the Fenix that really slows it down more than any other airplane. But it's still a good airplane, and I'm going to continue to fly it for a while. So speaking of flying that Fenix, that's a good enough introduction, I think, for today, and we can always talk more as we get going. But today, let's see what we're up against. So if I throw this up here, and that is not on there, is it? Let me throw that on there. There it is. Here is what we're up against today. Hopefully with the HD, you guys can read that well enough. But today's flight is from KLGA LaGuardia to West Palm Beach, KPBI. I don't know why it's not zooming automatically. Oh, because it knows where we are. So let me turn off auto follow. And there we go. There we go. Now you can see what we're doing here. So New York's LaGuardia down to West Palm Beach, Palm Beach International down in South Florida, close to Miami there, and that's what we're up against today. It's going to be a bit of a challenging day because there is quite a bit of weather on our route today. Just to have a really quick look at it, because I did briefly look at it. So let me just open this up in my other screen and drag it over here, my Navigraph. It's thinking. It's loading. Give it a second. It takes time, but it gets there. So there's the high IFR chart, and what I really want to show you though today is the weather. The big layer you want to see today is the radar as we leave the New York area. And actually, the one thing I didn't do, I did actually do it earlier, and then there we go. There's a fairly substantial amount of precipitation in the New York, Philadelphia, Washington area. Once we get south of that, down into South Florida, it looks pretty clear. But we're going to probably have to deal with the icing leaving LaGuardia today. We'll probably do it at the gate because a lot of times that's what the operators do in LaGuardia. We'll check the holdover times, make sure they're suitable, and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, that is our plan of attack today. Let's hop in that flight deck and get this show on the road because it's been long enough already. And my FS2 crew has been listening the whole time. It has not done anything because I've said nothing that's recognizable as an FS2 crew phrase. So here we are in the flight deck, already powered up in the JetBlue Sharklet-equipped A320. Today we're flying the A320 Sharklet version just because the flight called for an A320, and I said, okay, I've done a lot of A321 flying recently. Let's do the A320. So we did that. I'm just going to get some lights on in the flight deck because it is a dim morning out here. It'll probably get sunny once we get going, but it is a dim morning out there. So let's do this. Let's start setting up.
Roger.
All right, so hopefully, I think you guys can hear that. Let me just double check the sound settings are going out to the right thing. It should be, yeah, it should be coming out to the right thing, so you guys should have heard that. If you didn't, please let me know. Yeah, so today we have, and I forget who we have. I believe it's Romy, our German female. So we do have a female first officer today. Her name is Romy, and she's going to be helping us through our whole setup here. So we sat down in the flight deck. Yeah, they should be on already. They are on already. Batteries are on. We'll get the IRs going. We'll get the oxygen on. Light on. Seatbelts not yet. Those are the big things. And let's just check that the parking brake is on, that we have sufficient engine oil, hydraulics. She's testing the APU there. Don't start it now, though. It's like 30, 40 minutes of departure. Way too early to be starting the APU. Thank you. I cut her off before she could do it. And the doors page for oxygen is good.
Out for the walk around.
Thank you. Okay. And let's do the other thing, of course, we have to do right away, which is we've got the flight loaded. Let's just start the boarding. It is so dim in here today, but I'm hoping it's going to get a little better once we get going here. So refueling and boarding, courtesy of GSX. And there we go. So GSX is going to pop up its menu. It's going to do its thing, and we're going to start getting this thing ready to go. So we got to align our IRSs. And I'm going to try to remember not to use my tablet too much today. because I haven't streamed for so long, and I do like to use my tablet for that MCDU. It's a beautiful thing to do. I have to try and remember not to do it today. I actually have it set up, ready to go next to me, but I'm going to try not to use it. So we've got the A320-200 database is current until the 19th of February, and today's flight is, again, it's KLGA, and we do have ATC leaving New York today. We got a bunch of ATC here. Nobody... Oh, but just a New York Center online. But we have the tower and ground over in Newark. So it's going to be a busy departure, but we're going to have ATC. Let's get out of here before they log off. Where are we going? KPBI. KPBI. I didn't think I would get that ATC on a Thursday morning, but here we go. So today's flight number is JetBlue, and I believe we are 1961. 1961. 1961, logged onto the VATSIM network as 1961. I have a nice little flight counter I built myself using my 3D printer. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys this thing here, but it's a simple little thing, but it works. So here's all it is. It's just a little counter. It's just a little, rotational counter. It's actually basically it's a hit point counter for like Dungeons and Dragons, but I just repurposed it as this is my flight counter. So I just put my, when you're flying around with multiple flight numbers, it's hard to sometimes remember what flight number you are, and you end up stumbling over it. So I put it just right over here, down in the corner, right in close to my eye line, so I could just glance down at it and hey, look, okay, that's what we are today, 1961. While we're at it, let's get the IRS's initializing here. Let's pull up the airport coordinates using my flight plan today. And let's see here. They're just a little bit bigger. Get rid of that. Don't need that. So airport coordinates here at the start of the flight plan. 46.6 north. 46.6 north by 73, 52.4 west. 73, 52.4 west. We'll align on that reference point. That's the airport reference point, and we are good to go. We just got to basically wait for it to align now. Pardon me. While we're doing that, we can start pulling up some other preliminary information. So let's go ahead and get the ATIS for LaGuardia. And actually, what am I doing? What am I doing? I could do that, but what am I doing? I forget that this is still an option sometimes because I don't. Most of the time when I'm flying around, I don't have the ATC online just because I fly during the day a lot. That's usually when my free time is. But why not, when the option is there, use these functions? It's there. There it is. VATSIM, LaGuardia 8 is information Foxtrot, 1357 Zulu, winds 140 at 7, 2 miles, and light rain and snow, mist, broken 700, overcast 2500, 1 degree -2. That's a sloppy day. That feels like a de-icing day. 3007, ILS runway 4, approach at use, departing runway 13, and the NOTAMs. Operate transponder mode C on all taxiways and runways 5J Foxtrot. All right, so 3007, we can set that. And I've already forgotten what it said. In the time it took me to reach up here and set this, and I can actually set this like this, 1018. I think it says 1018 now. Yeah, 1018. So of course I looked at the runway, I read the runway, ILS runway 4, departing runway 13. So let's plan on that. So for departing runway 13, let's just pull up the tablet here and let's go ahead and do some, nope, that's landing, takeoff. Runway 13 in LaGuardia, we're going to say definitely wet. It would really be contaminated, so we're going to have, it might be contaminated. It's 1 degree, so it might be wet, but given that it's a short runway anyways, I'm going to force toga, anti-ice engine, absolutely, packs off, because it might be contaminated. We're not supposed to do, and then 70.4, I'm going to bump it up a little bit just to give us a little coverage, 70.9. And let's calculate that. So that gives us a, I can barely even read that. It's so dark in here today. It looks like 125, 141, 144. Can I turn this up just a little bit, please? There we go. That's better. 125, 141, 144. We got a toga takeoff, the full length flaps 1 down 0.4. So that's good. And we also did get the PDC here with a squawk code right now of 1010. So I'll put that in while we're waiting. We'll review it again later, but just while we're waiting for the IRS to finish aligning, we're going to do that. All right, here we go. 1010. So that's in and ready to go. The other thing we can calculate while we're sitting here waiting for nothing else to happen is a holdover time. So there's lots of different ways to get holdover times. Really? Do I have to request a copy? Crying out loud. I feel like I've requested this copy before, but anyways. I just want to have it up here. Yes, yes, yes. I'm not a... Okay. I'm
back. No issues on the walk around.
Okay, so it actually has to send it to my email, but that's fine. We got a couple seconds here, so I'm just waiting for it to come in because I want to show you guys. So there's different ways we can actually get the holdover times. A lot of companies now have an app on their EFB that will you'll put in the conditions, you'll put in snow, temperature, everything, and it'll calculate the times. The more advanced airports will actually have a holdover time determination system where it's a little weather sensor on the airport that determines exactly how much precipitation is following and exactly how long your holdover time will be. It's very, very precise. Most of the time, the holdover tables are a bit of a blunt object, but let's see here. All right, so I'm going to go with just a generic Type 1 fluid here. Yeah. Generic Type 1 fluid. You guys should be seeing this. Yeah. SA Type 1 fluid. So this is generic. Critical aircraft, predominantly aluminum. That's definitely the Airbus. -3 degrees and above is our temperature range today. We're at +1. And if we were to say it's light snow, very light snow, we're somewhere in the... let's see here. Let's do this properly here. So it's 2 miles visibility. So there's another table you got to go to at the back here that has the visibilities. Is it at the back or is it the front? Somewhere in here there's a table. We use the app at our work, so it's like I'm not used to looking through this trying to find the information here. There it is. Snowfall intensities as a function of prevailing intensity. So daytime, -1 and above, because daytime versus nighttime changes how much the snow tends to obstruct your visibility. So -1 and above during the day. If it's 2 miles visibility, it's considered very light snow. Even if it's below -1, it's still considered very light. So we can use the very light table, which for SAE Type 1, 18 to 22 minutes. I think we can probably get off the ground in 18 minutes. If we weren't sure, we could go for the Type 4. It's LaGuardia. It doesn't. We'll see how it sounds when we start talking to the controller. If it sounds like it might be busy, then maybe we will go for the Type 4, which will extend us quite a lot. If I scroll down to a generic Type 4, generic holdover times for Type 4. Let's see here. Snow. No, that's Type 2. Sorry, Type 2. Type 2. I want Type 4 fluids. Type 4. So this is generic, doesn't matter which brand. This covers all the brands. Very light snow, snow grains, or snow pellets. So we can do an hour 55 if we do the Type 4. So we're golden. It's one of those cases where it costs the airline a little more money, but what's the cost to come back to the gate if you end up doing that? So yeah, let's try not to do that. In the meantime, so we'll probably do Type 1 and 4 just to hedge our bets.
Check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes. Go for it.
Okay.
Looks like we're already halfway done boarding, but anyways. Okay, so we got the IRSs aligned. We got our first officer back in the flight deck. Let's go ahead and just quickly request some ACARS initialization and everything else. Why am I not doing this the easy way here? All right, so IRSs are aligned. We can go back. We can initialize the ACARS. Send for that really quickly. Make sure it matches what we're supposed to do. JetBlue 1619. Sorry, JetBlue 1961. That's why I have that there. 1961, LaGuardia, Palm Beach, Miami, 221. Perfect. So that's all good. And then we'll go into the secondary and we'll replace the secondary. I'm doing this a little bit backwards here because I like to kind of jump back and forth between the two MCDUs. I like to usually use the right MCDU as like my ACARS system and the left one is the FMGS system. That way I can keep the ATIS up here. So secondary flight plan uplink. LaGuardia, Palm Beach, alternate Miami. That looks good. And let's just see here. LaGuardia, White, CYN, Vills. That all looks about right. 10:57 the total distance. Off of our flight plan we have total distance, great circle distance 901. So it is a little longer. There is some dodging back and forth and some vector lag. So I think that's going to be okay. Let's go ahead and activate that. We will check it again to make sure everything is 100% correct. So check takeoff data, secondary flight plan uplink, nav accuracy upgrade, GPS primary. Those are all good messages we can clear. I'm going to go ahead and pull this back over to the ATSU page just so I can have the ATIS ready to look at here. And we'll program on this side. But before we do that, we've got to start the overhead flow if you're ready. So it is a little bit dark in the flight deck today. Let me turn this up a little more. That's maximum brightness. It's just dark out there today with the clouds and the rain and everything. It's a drizzly, dreary day in LaGuardia. But we will get out of here to the sunshines of southern Florida. All right, that is tested. Switching's good. First flight of the day. I heard you test the APU, so we'll just test the engines. Make sure the red lights, the squib, the discharge lights come on. Warning lights, you can hear the chime, and engine 2 fire, and the fault light on the start panel. Or the fire light on the start panel. All right, fuel. 9.76. It sounds like it's about right to get us to Florida. I didn't actually look that closely at the flight plan. Come on, flight plan. I pulled you up. Show me. 97.70. That's good. Fuel's done. All right, so let's go ahead. Left tank's on, right tank's on. It's got transfer valves, so we always open those. First flight of the day, we'll do the battery test. So batteries off. They are off. Put them back on. Should show less than 60 amps within 10 seconds. 7 amps, that's good. All right, external power. I'm just going to turn these down a little bit because they always complain it's too hot in the back. Pack 2 off for the ground ops. And yeah, we'll start the APU. Just a couple minutes here. The seatbelts can go on. No smoking's on. Emergency exit lights are armed. PA's on. Compass out. All right, so we got the 3007 constraints on. And I can do this. I forget I have the mini EFIS because I'm doing it as a stream, and I want to show you guys like every button as I click it, but I can do it as a stream. There we go. Constraints on both sides. We're getting there. Let me know how the background sound is. It sounds okay to me. It sounds, if anything, probably a little quiet, in all honesty. I don't want it too loud because once you start the engines, it gets really loud. I don't want to do that. So it's like, I'm always trying to find that nice balance. Let me know what you guys think about it. Because I have the feedback of the sound in my ear, but I don't have my voice feeding back in my ear because I find that extremely difficult to deal with. If you have the voice feedback in your ear, I feel like I'm. It's always just a tiny bit lagged because the time it takes for this to get into the system process to come back. So like I hear the echo, the slight echo of my own voice. I can't, and then it just distracts me. I lose my train of thought constantly when I'm talking. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to turn those off. I'm also going to turn you off just because this stuff actually does control what's going on. So by clicking some buttons over here, when everything's off on that side, I can now control this. So I can put the ATC frequency up, but we're not hearing it because I've got COM 1 turned off, which is what you'd normally do at a station stop. You'd normally have the company station up, but you don't want to bother listening to ATC when you're parked at the gate. It's too much of a distraction during the setup, and I really do tend to agree with that, especially on VATSIM, but very, very distracting, I find. Switching panels good. Pressurization says 0 feet in Florida. Auto and status. Cat 2 and op is fine at this juncture. So we just make sure those move because I just reset my controls. I haven't flown the Airbus actually in a little while. I flew the 37 and the CRJ a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So surprisingly, I've been flying the Airbus as much as I normally do. All right, quick flight instrument cross check. 1 FD2. 1 FD2, altimeter is 3007 inches indicating 10 feet, 3007 inches indicating, we'll call it 20 feet, 3007 inches indicating 10 feet, and heading 055, 055, 055. Let's do that. Yeah, 055. 055, 055. All right. Ready to get to work in the box. All right, so first of all, starting on the aircraft status page, we got an A320-200 with the V2527 Alpha 5 engines. Database current until the 19th of February. Performance factor, we've got it stuck at +0 today because it's even when you put one in there, it makes the calculations in the FMGS, but it doesn't actually increase the fuel burn in the engines. The sim engines always burn perfectly ideally, so we just leave it at 0. Anything to detune, nothing to detune that I saw, so nothing is deselected. Initialization, so for JetBlue, 1961. Let's get this right here. 1961, going from LaGuardia to Palm Beach, Miami. We've already initialized the IRSs. The cost index off of our flight plan is, let's see here. We got a cost index of 5, cruising flight level, initially 36, looks like only 36, and a temperature deviation there of +6. So 5 for the cost index, 360 for the cruise, and then +6 takes us to -44. Oops, gotta put a slant in there, it won't work. Slant, -44. All right, there we go. Ready for the flight plan. All right, departing LaGuardia, it says 13. And the clearance, it's cleared the Tennis 6 departure, climb to the SID, expect 360 10 minutes after. So there's the Tennis 6 departure. No transitions on there. And then from our flight plan, the expected arrival into Palm Beach. Does it give us an expected arrival? 10 left. Clement 2 from Dooley. So let's plan 10 left. ILS 10 left. Clement 2. And starts at Dooley. So ILS 10 left. Clement 2, Dooley. We'll insert that. And now we should have a total distance. We got 955. That's much more reasonable. And we should be seeing about 962. That's within definitely a reasonable error. We have, let's see here, the routing. We have no user-defined waypoints. We have no step climbs today. All right, so let's just verify this whole routing. We'll try the data store method, but it only works about 10% of the time, I swear. JBU 1961. Store it. And about, 10% of the time it works, if even that. So let's gonna check it the old-fashioned way here. So what we're looking for is white, Quebec 409 to Crippler, then direct ears, Quebec 131 to Walt, Yankee 289. I'm just gonna slide this over to the other screen so I can continue to see it while I go through this here. So there's our departure. We get vectors to white. It's Quebec 409 to Crippler. Then direct ears, where we join Quebec 131 as far as Walt. And then it's Yankee 289 to Dooley. And that's where we join the arrival of Clement 2 there for Palm Beach. I can see it says 10 left. There's a discon, but there it is, 10 left. Perfect. All right, RadNav, auto-tune is good. Secondary, we'll recopy it. We'll put a, what was the ceiling at here? Ceiling is, looks like they're done boarding already. 700 feet. Yeah, we could get in. ILS runway 4 is down about 250, so let's do that. So after the manual leg change, we're going to put back to LaGuardia. So immediate return. If anything happens to the airplane, we are ready to activate our immediate return on the secondary here. So we'll just put this as the ILS 4. Pretty sure without looking at the chart, I've done it many times, it's 250 feet, so we could get in at 700 feet. It's a short runway, so we may want to consider going to other airports, but that is the plan right now. All right, initialization Bravo page. Taxi point 2 seems reasonable. Route reserve of 0. Alternate, again, pulling it out of the flight plan here. We're looking at alternate fuel of, looks like 1.1 and final reserve of 1.1. 1.1 and 1.1. All right, perfect. ZFW, grab that
Hi
from
guys, here is the load sheet for you.
page 2. Thank you.
No problem. Have a safe flight.
All right, so we're going to acknowledge this here. So this is edition number 1, JetBlue 1961, 6th of February, LaGuardia, Palm Beach. That is our fin, 61.2 by 32.8. 61.2 by 31.8. And block fuel of 9.7 seems reasonable. All right, so I'll fix that later. Anyways, it's a little crooked, I realize that. It's fine. 70.7. And I'll fix it now, actually. So we'll go over here. We did numbers for 70.9. So see how we went up? We went from 70.4 to 70.7. That little extra margin, we don't have to recalculate. As long as we are within, we are somewhere from our target performance weight down to 2 tons below it. That's the range we're allowed to be in for takeoff. We can't be above the planned takeoff weight. We need new performance numbers. But we can be below the planned takeoff weight on the takeoff calculations as long as we're within 2 tons. So in this case, we're only 200 kilos under. That's really good. That's perfect. Trip wind. So just for a quick calculation and make sure that everything seems reasonable, average wind component is -10. So not much of a headwind. There's some good crosswinds today, but not much of a headwind component. So that -10. And again, we look at the flight plan. This should give us, let's see here, should give us a burn of about 5.9 tons for 2 hours and 21. 5.6227. It's a little bit off, but it's reasonably close, and an extra of 1.9. So we've got an extra here. That's about 9, 10, 11, plus contingency 12, 13, 14, and then we're coming in about 300 under 1700. So now we're in about the right ballpark. So the extra is about right when you consider the trip time a little bit, or the trip fuel's a little bit off. So we'll put that back to 0. And we'll go back to init alpha and request the winds. While we're waiting for that, a quick review of what I've got here on the aircraft is loaded. Thank you. So LaGuardia runway 13, we did wet runway, we did forced toga, anti-ice engine, and packs off because we consider that the runway might be contaminated at 1 degree with snow, mix of rain and snow coming down. There's a good chance it's not just wet. It probably is wet, but because I don't have actual runway conditions, I'm going to take the conservative approach and assume it might be a little bit contaminated. So we do have these numbers here, so we can send those to the MCDU and then check our winds. They should be blue for climb, cruise, and descent phase. That's all good. And then performance. So again, let's check it here. Runway 13, no takeoff shift, flaps 1, toga 25, 41, 44 with 15, 20, 15, 20, 10, 20. So 25, 41, 44, we got toga, flaps 1, no shift, and it had 15, 10, 15, 10, 10, 10. Yeah, that's all reasonable. 222, the green dot speed is pre-selected for the climb. All right, cruising at flight level 360. The optimal showing 34, max at 36.9, so we're a little bit tight cruise to max. If it's at all turbulent, we might need to stop at 34. We'll see how that looks. We'll do a quick little distance here check to make sure everything also jives here. The Great Circle distance should be 900 miles. That was in the flight plan as well. Right there, 901 is the Great Circle distance. The direct straight line distance is 901, so that's good. GPS primary nav accuracy is high, and the IRSs are all navving with a 0.3 bias. Okay, we're halfway there. All right, clearance. Let's just read the clearance really quickly here. So, JetBlue 1961. A320, depart LaGuardia, arrive Palm Beach. LaGuardia, White, Quebec 409, Crippler, Ears, Quebec 131, White, Yankee 289, Dooley, Clement 2, PBI. That's all what we've got. 360, 1010, remarks, clear the 10 to 6, climb via the SID, expect 360, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 2532, and advise ATIS contact 2532 for taxi. So we don't have to call him for the push, we just need to call him for the taxi, assuming he hasn't logged off, and he's still there. Good. Okay. So the fuel is boarded. It is balanced between both sides. It's been recorded in the logbook or in the flight plan. And I'm just thinking about it here. Let's get that APU on. We got pumps are on, belts are on. Load, we've got the final numbers. We actually put in the final numbers, didn't we? Yes, we did. So we confirmed those. And we got the stab trim setting in there as well, and logbook will say it's on board, mounted behind the FO seat. Okay, quick little departure review while that fires up, and we'll do a briefing. Okay, so let's go here, let's go flight plan. I think I might need to do it this way. Alright, the nice thing is I can do plan with my mini EFIS that I have on my desk, and I can move all these knobs around. And let's pull up the, not the flight plan, but the charts here for the Tennis 6 departure. Alright, Tennis 6, so radars required for all turbojet aircraft. Aircraft performance may be required. Reduced airspeed, altitude restrictions. All right. I feel like I'm not really reading this. Let me actually read it. Turboprop. Okay, so for all turbojet aircraft, strict compliance to altitude track restrictions is mandatory. If unable to comply with climb gradient, notify ATC initial contact. All aircraft expect vectors after tennis. We don't have any of those transitions. Do not exceed 220 knots until passing Jutes. Max 220 knots to Jutes. And top altitude is 5,000. So I'm just going to set that right now on my with my mini FCU. Love that thing. All right, and let's just check and make sure that these departure instructions match what's in the box here. So I'm going to just do, and then we'll also check it on the map display as well. So it's climb heading 134 to intercept a course of 050 to cross Jutes at or above 3,000. Looks like we're going to cross 49 there. Then on heading 045. Expect vectors after tennis. So heading 045, it says track 040. It should be 045, actually 039. Across tennis at above 5,000, then heading 045. See, I'm skipping a line there. All right, so straight ahead, we'll go back to the left, maintain 5,000 sub ATC, and yeah. And let's just have a look at that, make sure that makes sense in the box as well on the plan view. So heading 134 straight ahead, intercept the course to Jutes above 3,000, max 220 knots, tennis above 5,000. And then after that, it's the vector leg as far as the eye can see until we get vectors around to white in the other direction, but that's okay. We got everything in there. All right. Are you ready for a departure briefing?
Go ahead.
Okay. So again, today's departure is, first of all, technical status of the aircraft. We have no malfunctions. I've done a malfunction-free airplane. It's been so much time, and I'm just, we're going to deal with de-icing. That's going to be enough to deal with today. So no malfunctions on the aircraft. No TAMs for the departure out of LaGuardia. I don't believe I had a quick breeze through, but let's just have another more detailed traffic management. Yeah, there's probably ground delays into LaGuardia, I would expect. There are a few taxiway closures, so let's just pull up the chart here and compare. Delta between Bravo Bravo and Foxtrot. Delta between Bravo Bravo and Foxtrot. Okay,
Hey
that's
guys,
fine. Foxtrot
all
between
packs
Bravo Bravo
are
and
on
Delta.
board. Are we clear to close?
Cleared to close.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Got a nice blue cabin in there. All right. What am I doing here? All right, where was I? I've lost my my train of thought completely here. Okay. Oh yes, we were just quickly glancing at the NOTAMs. All surfaces, work in progress, snow removal, taxiway Alpha Charlie between Alpha Ramp and Alpha Alpha closed. I don't even see where Alpha Charlie is. Little Alpha Ramp and... Oh, Terminal Alpha, that's why. It's over here. There it is, Alpha Charlie. Okay, yep. Lanes. Taxi lanes. Alpha between Golf Golf and Juliet closed. Center line markings obscured. Ficons are 555, 100%, 1/8 inch slush. De-iced, solid, and sanded. Now that was at 13:15 Zulu, so that was about an hour and a half ago. So yes, contaminated runway, definitely. Good. All right, so we've done that properly. Anything about the Tennis 6 departure here? No. We might have trouble landing here again. So you may want to consider, diversion to Newark if we actually do have an airborne emergency, because frankly, the runway conditions are not great here in LaGuardia. But we are going to be able to depart. Even with that slush contaminated runway, and I think we would need a naturally a little bit more conservative takeoff numbers. But we've got Toga, we've got Flaps 1. It's about the best performance we're going to get. So most airline systems usually allow you to run specific contamination numbers. This at 1/8 inch slush is not a good number either. I think that's 1/8 inch slush might be condition code 5, but if you get a 1/4 inch slush, it's condition code 2. It's a really lousy runway. Anywho. We're getting going here. Yeah, so LaGuardia, Tennis 6 RNAV departure for runway 13. Special notes, do not exceed 220 until passing Jutes. Top altitude is 5,000 and 5,000 feet is set. Let me think here. Noise abatement, there's nothing published. We're just going to do the standard departure, accelerate, and accelerate and thrust reduction of 1,500 feet. And engine out procedure for runway 13, we're going to follow the same procedure. It'll be a left turn out over the Long Island Sound per the SID. the MSA for departure 3,000 feet, so we'll maintain 3,000 in the event of an engine failure. All right, performance in the box today for the left seat departure off of runway 13 here in LaGuardia. It is a contaminated 1/8 inch slush runway, so we got no takeoff shift. We're taking the full length, flaps 1, flex, no flex is a toga takeoff, V1 125, VR 141, V2 144, strand transition 18,000, 1510, 1510, 1010, and 222. The green dot speed pre-selected for the climb. Just while I'm thinking about it, we did start the APU? Yes, we did. All right, that's going to be enough time. We'll take the ground power off with the AP bleed on. It'll be managed departure. We've got climb blue, nav blue. We'll get the autopilot on shortly after departure since it is IMC. We can focus on the management of the departure, talking to ATC. It's complex, busy airspace. Finally, the let's see here, RadNav. We've got auto tuning for the departure. We are below max. We're above max landing weight, so immediate return. We'll need to do flaps 3 and packs off unless we have time to run the overweight landing checklist. Secondary flight plan's got immediate return onto runway 4 in LaGuardia via the ILS. No single engine taxi out. We're going to do de-icing at the gate, and OEVs will say 646 apply, and we'll do a quick little you will review since I haven't done it in a little while. So in the event of an abnormality prior to V1, I'll call continue reject. If the decision is reject, I'll immediately select thrust levers idle, observe, apply maximum brakes, and apply maximum first thrust. I'll maintain max reverse. I will check and announce reverse and deceleration, monitor the auto brake, cancel the auto warning, call 70 and advise ATC. I will maintain max reverse, max brake until stopped, ensure forward, I'll thrust the park brake if required, call ECAM actions, and accomplish ECAM actions. We will assess the situation. If it's required, if it's not required, I'll make a PA rain seat. If contact with the in-charge flight attendant is required, I'll make a PA in-charge flight attendant call report to flight deck. And if an evacuation is required, I'll call stop ECAM checklist patch evacuation. I'll read the appropriate checklist. In the event of an engine fire failure, after V1, I'll continue to take off, rotate normally PR to 12.5 degrees when everyone follows our commands. I'll call engine fire, power loss, cancel the auto warning, establish a definite climb. I'll call positive rate. I'll call gear up. I'll select gear up above 100 feet. I'll trim the aircraft, engage the autopilot above 400 feet. I'll select heading push or pull as required. Call ECAM actions. I will accomplish initial ECAM actions. Advise engine secured. I'll call stop ECAM at or above the engine at acceleration altitude. We'll accelerate in level flight. Call for lap traction on schedule. When the speed trend error reaches green dot speed, I'll select altitude pull, thrust, MCT, and call continue ECAM. I'll descend the spoilers, continue ECAM. In the event of an emergency descent, I'll call emergency descent on mask. I'll assume control of the autopilot on. I'll call emergency descent on mask. Call captain auction. Don mask, all first officer action. I'll select signs on and make a PA attention flight attendant, secure the cabin passengers, take your seats if applicable. I will establish the aircraft in descent, announce the FMA. If the auto thrust is not active, I'll select thrust levers idle and extend the speed brakes to full. I will confirm the FMA and ensure establish the aircraft correctly in descent. Once established in the descent, I'll select max appropriate speed and notify TC. I'll set the engine mode to ignition, set the transponder 7700. I'll call ECAM actions. I'll accomplish ECAM silently. Cabin altitude exceeds 14,000 feet. I'll press and hold the mask manual and push button for at least 2 seconds and make a PA. Attention, put on your oxygen mask immediately. On this route, 10,000 feet is sufficient level off for the entire route. 2,000 feet to level off, we will select an appropriate airspeed. Protract the speed brakes, leveling off 10,000 feet, mask off one at a time, summon the in charge, and consider diversion. All right, that's all done. I think we're just about ready to go. If I summon GSX, the only question I have is, are they going to de-ice at the gate? Because I would like to do de-icing at the gate. So let's just see what happens here. So first of all, before start checklist.
Parking brake.
Set.
Takeoff speed sense thrust.
V1 125, VR 141, V2 144. Toga.
V1 125 VR 141 V2 144 Windows.
Closed.
Beacon.
On.
Before start checklist completed.
All right. I just want to see what they're going to do here. I want them to summon de-icing, but it's 1 degree out, so they may not summon the de-icing. They may just put the tug on without summoning the de-icing.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Okay, because most of the time in LaGuardia, as far as I recall, de-icing is usually done at the gate. So what we'll do is we'll push back off the gate, then we'll de-ice, and then we'll get going. The one thing I actually do need is my bloody QRH here, which has got my checklists, including de-icing. That's engine start, airframe de-icing, engines off checklist. All right, so first of all, what I should have done was I should have done before we get started here. For takeoff and Canada runway, use packs off. We are using packs off. Hot DRA cars transaction obtained. We didn't get one, but we used no holdover time. We say 1 hour and 22 minutes with Type 4 and advise passengers and crew PA complete. So I should have done PA, ladies and gentlemen. This is the captain speaking. Welcome on board your flight 1961 service to Palm Beach. Fortunately, in Palm Beach, it's nice and sunny. Unfortunately, due to the weather here in LaGuardia, we're going to have the aircraft de-ice prior to departure. This will take about 10 additional minutes, and then we'll taxi out to the runway for departure. On behalf of the entire team, welcome on board. There. PA is complete. You are required to PA the passengers and tell them if de-icing is going to be conducted. All right. So it looks like we are getting going here. So oops, I put that off too early. We'll go tail left today.
Release parking brakes, please.
And again, let me know how the volume sounds to you guys. It sounds okay in my headset, but I've got my headset cranked pretty high so I can hear it.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
I might turn it up just a little bit more so you guys can hear it a little better. Alright, so we're not going to start engines in the push because it's slippery out, because we're going to de-ice with engines off before we get going here. And just a quick check, VATSIM. Do we have a... We don't have ground or tower. We do have a New York approach, 25.7, so we're going to get 25.7 up now, just so we can start listening to it and be ready. 25.7.
US Air Force 66 vacated 4 and we're short Romeo's crossing 1
US Air Force 66, welcome to LaGuardia, cross runway 13 on Romeo, taxi via Romeo, Golf, and Alpha to the ramp.
Cross 13 on Romeo, Romeo Golf Alpha to the ramp, and enjoy your day in US Air Force 66. Bye-bye.
Alright.
King or not enjoy Mike, climb and maintain 8,000.
Climb and maintain 8,000, Mike.
And actually I just want to check as well, make sure we are flight tracking here. It does look like it knows that we are in pre-flight stage. Let's do auto follow because then it'll show us. Just want to make sure that it does know that, yeah, it looks like it does see that we're on the line there, so that's good.
Please set parking brakes.
Alright. Brakes are set. Confirm the pins are moved. And let us know when you're ready for de-icing. Alright, so I just have to do one more thing with my other flight tracker here. Did I start my other flight tracker here? I did. It looks like it's working. Okay, good. Alright, so I'm going to hit up my checklist anyways for the airframe de-icing with engines off. Spray at the gate. Ground air disconnected. We're not. Spray after pushback. Before start, checklist accomplished. When ready to spray, go to configure for spray engines off. Alright, so configure for spray engines off while he's unlocking the gear. Ensure either APU available or external power on prior to engine shutdown. So we're not doing an engine shutdown. Thrust levers idle. Idle. Parking brake is on. On engine anti-ice 1 and 2 off. They're off. Engine master 1 and 2 off. They are off. Cabin press mode selector, check auto. Cabin press mode selector is auto with the light out. Engine bleeds 1 and 2 off. Engine 1 and 2 bleeds off. APU bleed off. That's off. Pack 1 and 2 off. 1 and 2 are off. And the ditching push button switch on. Ditching push button switch is on.
I'm sure you're aware, but the company
Disregard the ECAM for cabin pressure OFE not open. And beacon off. So we gotta take the beacon off now for this part. Advise ground crew brake set aircraft configured for spray. Alright, so let's see if I can tell GSX now that we want to de-ice here. I believe it should come up as an option now. Request de-icing service here. Perfect. So we should have done it back at the gate. Sometimes it asks before you want to push back, but I guess because it's 1 degree, the logic is that there's no de-icing. But it could be de-icing at 1 degree. It sure could. You could have landed or you could have accumulated snow in the meantime. Alright.
United 5428, turn right heading 2.
I don't know where they're coming from, but they should be coming here. Fluid application start time note, hot DRA cars transaction obtained, and a NIT-B page, re-enter the ZFW or ZFW-CG. Now we don't need to do that because we didn't do a shutdown, but if you did a shutdown, it resets all your weights and you've got to re-enter the zero fuel weight again. Okay, here they come. It's unusual for them to be behind the aircraft. You almost never de-ice an airplane from the rear.
Zero 11 Juliet Heavy near departure, radar contact, climb maintain 11,000.
It looks like it's almost stopped. I could probably go with the Type 1. We'll go with the Type 4 just to be safe.
11 Juliet Heavy, roger.
I have had to go back to the gate in LaGuardia because the de-icing took too long and the holdover time expired in LaGuardia, so I don't want to do that again. So, but de-icing for behind the wing is generally not done, and the reason why is because you don't want to risk jamming fluid forward into the sensitive controls. So everything is kind of shielded when the wing is flowing over the wing, that it's kind of shielded from rain, moisture, and anything else that's flowing over the wing. It looks like it just increased the rate it was raining too. Anything that's coming over the wing, you know, you don't want to get into crevices where you've got hydraulic systems, pneumatics, electronic sensors, and all that sort of stuff. So it's shielded a certain way. So when you're de-icing, you want to de-ice the same way. You want to de-ice from the leading edge back so that any fluid tends to flow over those areas that have sensors and actuators and things like that. If you do it from the back, there's a good chance you might actually get it into those crevices. So generally, this is a no-no. You don't normally de-ice an aircraft from the rear. Anyways, I'm not going to complain too much. They are doing it. You can see it's green fluid going on the wings today, so that is Type 4 fluid going on the wings, and that'll give us 155 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. Somehow I had tapped the streaming window, so when I pressed tried to switch back, it got the key pressed in the wrong place. So sorry about the sudden volume there.
Good afternoon, United 112. With you, 8,800 climbing to 10,000.
United 54, 20 expected vector across the localizer, fly heading 070 to intercept. United 112 near departure, climb maintain 16,000.
Okay, I just want to make sure too that you guys can hear that ATC, but you can. Good. Okay, so they are now. Looks like they are now clearing the aircraft. They gave us the thumbs up. We'll note the holdover time started at about 15:08, so it's good for almost 2 hours, so about till 1700 almost. All right, de-icing, anti-icing complete, chrono start. So make sure you start the timer there. Ground equipment and personnel confirm clear. So look both ways. Clear on the left, clear on the right. Ditching push button switch off. So ditching push button switch is going off. Outflow valve, check open. So you go to the press page and make sure that the outflow valve is reopening. This is why you press the ditching switch, is it closes all the valves around the airplane so de-icing fluid can't get in. Before start checklist, re-accomplish. Before start checklist.
Parking
American 4721
set.
After Rover, fly heading 250 vectors final, descend to maintain 5,000.
V1 125, VR 141, B2 144, Toga.
United 1
Toga.
New York Center
V1
125.32.
125 VR 141 V2 144 Windows
Closed.
beacon
On.
before start checklist completed.
Singapore 21 heavy near departure, climb maintain.
All right, and the other thing that should be in this checklist is APU bleed back on.
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
Cancel checklist.
Roger.
Starting engine 2.
2802
Okay.
approach, spec 4 right. 4 right. United 54.
All right, starting engines 2 and 1. We do a normal engine start. We'll hit the after start checklist. Just grab the air bleed ECAMs.
Reback correct. Kicker 9028 Mike, climb maintain 14,000.
Alright, 14,000.
It's getting there.
21 heavy, proceed direct, Merit.
Oil pressure's up there.
Central aircraft, it is India current to LaGuardia,
There
altitude
it goes.
3003.
ATIS India, huh? That's a good idea. We should
Kinger
go look at that.
902 Mike, contact New York Center 125.32.
while the engine is starting.
2532, have a good day.
American 4280, turn left heading 200. 200, American 430. Speedbird 11 Juliet Heavy, Boston Center is closed, change to advisor approved.
Alright, nice to be up on 128. Thanks very much, bye-bye.
And American 430, can we start flying or is silliness at 210? American 4280.
Alright, starting engine 1.
180, American 430.
Starting engine 1.
Okay.
Miles and light rain and mist. I guess maybe we didn't need to do ice. Now it's 2 degrees. Well, you make the best choices you can with the information in front of you. 3004.
American 4280.
So all you can do is make air bleed 2 off, disregard that ECAM. Bleeds are intentionally selected off at this point. ILS 4, departing 13, no TAMs, operate the mode C. Alright, so we got India. But it was cold earlier, so chances are the airplane did have crud on the wings. Whether we did Type 1 or Type 4 was kind of a 50-50 bet.
Brickyard 4280, flooding.
But I was pretty much guaranteed if the airplane was sitting here for half the night when it snowed last night, it needed de-icing regardless of whether it's actually below 0 or not right now. Alright, those look pretty steady. There's the ECAM. So it says we can disregard that ECAM. We're going to get the other ECAM momentarily here.
4280, fly heading 220.
Engine 1 and 2 bleeds are both off, so that's fine. Alright. Let's see here. Alright, engine start. APU bleed off. APU bleed is off. Engine anti-ice 1 and 2 on for 30 seconds, and then as required. So on for 30 seconds. This helps get any fluid that might be in the system out of the system. That's the air bleed 1 off. You can clear that as well. So we'll call it from 4:30. We started at, so 5 minutes. Packs 1 and 2 on. So we got to wait the 30 seconds so it burns stuff out of there, and then we can turn the packs on.
JetBlue 2802.
Actually, we can turn the packs on now because we don't have the engine bleeds on yet. So we can turn those switches on. If ECAM vent avionics system fault triggered, it's not. Wait at least 1 minute after spray completion before selecting engine bleeds on. So now the engines have both been running for probably about 30 seconds. Engine 2, we can probably put bleed 2 on because it was running for longer. And once we get through that next 30 seconds here, we put engine 1 bleed on. After start checklist accomplished and normal procedures resume. Caution when taxiing, freezing, precipitation, wet, snow, or slush. Flaps remain retracted until the holding position of the departure runway. So we'll probably do that today. We'll leave the flaps for today because, well, she'll probably reselect them automatically anyways, but... Okay, so there's another 30 seconds. Engine 1 bleed is on. That'll get the packs going. And we can do normal after start. After start checklist.
American 4280, maintain 170 knots for
On.
till Dennis.
ECAM status.
170 or greater till Dennis. American
Checked.
Pitch trim.
JetBlue 2802, depart LaGuardia heading 130, vectors final, descend to maintain 13,000. 13,000, 130, off LaGuardia, JetBlue 2802.
0.4 nose down. Set and checked.
Radar trim.
Neutral.
After start, checklist completed.
Alright. We're going to taxi up to the top of the alley because they don't
Ready.
control. Clear left side.
Clear right side.
Because they don't control the alleys here. So we're just going to taxi around the corner. And then we'll contact near departure. Alright. Takes a little while, especially in winter. When there's lots of stuff going on and you're doing stuff in winter, it takes a little while. Brake check.
Pressure 0.
Now, I believe this is lane 9 we're on. I'm just going to double check here.
American 4280 American, wind 140 at 7, runway 4, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 4, American 4280, thanks.
United 1015, be advised the Proud 2 arrival stopped at 10,000 feet at Corey, descend and maintain 900,000. United 1015, maintain 900,000.
It is a lousy morning out there.
Brickyard 4280, turn left heading 200.
QB00 heading Brickyard 4280.
Air departure, good morning. JetBlue 1961, LaGuardia with information India, lane 9, ready taxi.
American 4721, maintain 250 knots.
Oh, I think I got the wrong button, don't I?
Maintain 250 for American 4721.
JetBlue 2802, turn right heading 180.
I had the wrong button. You didn't hear that at all.
8,000.
Ah,
0 down to 8, JetBlue 2802.
Brickyard 4280, descend and maintain 3000.
3000, Brickyard 4280.
just trying to reset the stupid thing. I wish you could save like multiple profiles. All right.
Can you bring our speed back now for Brickyard?
Flight deck, Ross speaking.
Brickyard 4280, reduce speed to
Thank you.
180.
180, Brickyard 4280.
Air departure, good morning. JetBlue 1961 on the ground, LaGuardia, lane 9 with India, ready taxi.
JetBlue 1961, New York departure, good morning. Runway 13, taxi via Lima, Alpha, correction, Lima, Bravo, Papa, hold short, runway 4.
All right, runway 13, we're going to taxi Lima, Bravo, Papa, hold short of 4, JetBlue 1961.
Brickyard 4280,
Let's
turn
just
left
make sure
heading
we know what we're
070,
doing here.
localize.
Let's pull up that chart. So straight out, Lima, Bravo, and Papa. So coming out here, we're going to go Lima onto Bravo, then continue straight ahead. It becomes Papa to hold short of 4. All right, let's get that side light on now that we're away from the gate area. It's a little bit murky out here. We want to make sure people see us coming. And you wouldn't want to, if it's slippery at all, you wouldn't want to take it very quickly. Now, it looks like it's mostly wet, but given that it was slushy earlier, I would expect there's probably some slush, and it is probably slippery. There's nothing worse than the feeling of a 60-ton airliner sliding sideways underneath you, and you can't do anything about it because you took a turn too fast. So just take it nice and easy. Make sure we know where we're going here.
4280, 90 miles
So
to Dennis. maintain
left turn over
3000,
here, and that's
7,
Lima
put out
right
4
there.
approach.
So we just got to kind of take a little bit of a left here, and then the immediate right turn.
Brickyard 4280, maintain 170 knots at greater till Dennis.
170 greater to Dennis, Brickyard 4280.
American 892, New York departure, good morning. Wind 140 at 10, fly heading 100, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
Not the best day for HD flying in the rain and snow and poor visibility right near New York.
JetBlue 28
My frame rate is definitely kind of looks like what it used to.
5,000.
All right, this is Bravo here.
0 down to 5000, JetBlue 2802.
American 4721, descend to maintain 3000, then reduce speed to 210.
All right, just get straightened out, and then we can do the checklist here.
American 4721.
American 4280, welcome to LaGuardia, right turn on the uniform.
Flight control check.
Uniform Romeo, hold short of my 13.
Uniform Romeo, hold short of 13, American 4280.
Flight control check.
Brickyard 4280,
Level.
tropical
Full
hold in
up.
position, then depart the crossing runway prior
Full
to your
down.
arrival.
Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Egypt Air 90867, near departure, good morning. Runway 4 left, line up and wait.
Full left. Full right. Neutral.
Brickyard 4280, you can begin reducing to your final approach speed.
Brickyard 4280, welcome.
Taxi checklist.
Flight controls.
Checked.
Checked. Flap setting.
Config 1+F.
Config 1
American 4721, turn right heading
Radar
320.
and predictive wind shear system.
Right heading 320.
On.
4721.
On and auto.
JetBlue
Engine mode is
1961,
selector.
traffic's an Embraer jet, 9 mile final cross runway 4 on pop and continue to exit at 13.
All right, cross 4 on pop and continue to 13, JetBlue 1961. All right, 9 miles final. It gives us plenty of time here, so I'm not going to worry about accelerating too much here. Repeat last. Repeat last.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff, no blue.
Taxi checklist completed.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board our flight today.
American 892 climbing 1.7.
American 892, radar contact, climb maintain 11,000.
Climb maintain 11,000, American 892.
American 4721, flooding 010, draw on the localizer, descend and maintain 2,000.
Heading 010, join the localizer for American 4721.
American 4721,
Okay, clear to cross
maintain
4, clear left, clear right, and the stroke's going on.
Roger.
Extend to maintain 2000, American 4721.
American 892, turn right, heading 130.
It is our policy that you keep your seatbelt fastened at all times while seated. Doors are clearly marked with
American 892, turn right, heading 130.
Right, 130, American 892.
American 4280, cross runway 13 on Romeo, taxi Romeo, Golf Alpha to the ramp, tropical hold in position.
In an emergency,
Alright, cross runway Romeo, Golf Alpha, ramp, American
the cabin is pressurized.
JetBlue 1961, traffic cross runway downfield, traffic 6 mile final, runway 4, runway 13, line up and wait.
Line up runway 13, JetBlue 1961.
Agent 0986 Heavy, fly
Takeoff
heading
runway.
100, runway 4 left, clear for
Takeoff
takeoff.
runway confirmed.
Heading 10.
Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew
American
be seated for
4721, you're
takeoff.
5 miles from Ebby, maintain 2000 till established, put ILS from like 4 right approach, maintain 180 knots to Ebby.
180 to Eddie.
Confirmed.
Right approach.
Runway 13, right.
JetBlue 2802, turn right heading
Take us.
310, descend and maintain 3000.
310 down to 3, JetBlue 2802.
TARA.
Tax 1 and 2.
Brickyard 4280, traffic will depart the crossing runway Friday Bravo, runway 4, clear to land, LaGuardia wind 140.
Off.
Lineup checklist completed.
JetBlue 1961, traffic 3 mile final, runway 13, clear for takeoff.
13 clear for takeoff, JetBlue 1961. All right, here we go.
American 892, turn right heading 220.
220, American 892.
American 47.
Mantoga, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Friday arrival, caution wake turbulence, runway 48, clear to land, wind 14010.
And we'll lock out for that wake turbulence and clear land 4 right for American 4721.
JetBlue 2802.
Yeah, we can't do it. We didn't get takeoff thrust.
Oh, no, 180, JetBlue 2802.
And JetBlue 1961 aborted takeoff.
JetBlue 1961, roger. Continue down to runway 13, can turn right on Lima, then join Bravo and hold position.
All right, right turn Lima, hold position on Bravo, JetBlue 961. I think we need an engine run up. I think that's the problem. All that wet precipitation.
American 892, climb maintain 17,000.
Boo.
17,000, American 892.
Didn't think about the fact we need an engine run before we got going.
Flooding 010, draw the localizer.
010, we'll join it, JetBlue 2802.
Couldn't seem to get them to accelerate, so.
Egypt Air 986 Heavy, near departure, radar contact, turn right, heading 130.
We'll just do one quick engine run.
Egypt Air 986.
JetBlue 2802, 8 miles from Ebby, descend, maintain.
Didn't even bat an
2000,
eyelid at it, though,
establish
which is
localizer.
good. Like, I like the fact the controller didn't bat an eyelid at it. I tried. It was not going to
On our way down to
generate
2000,
thrust,
Island
so.
for JetBlue 2802.
So what we'll do is trying to Bravo. Normally I would request the ground controller permission to do an engine run, but this guy seems like he's working really hard. I see there's nobody here on Bravo, so we'll just do the hard over onto Bravo
American
here.
892, proceed direct Robbinsville.
See if we
climb
can get
maintain
this to work.
17,000.
Direct Robbinsville.
Ah, Phoenix, you got me.
Egypt Air 986 Heavy, proceed direct Betty, climb
Just
maintain
trying to straighten this
11,000.
out a little bit nicely here.
Direct Betty, climb 11,000, Egypt Air.
All right. Didn't think about that. Under pressure from the controllers to get going here.
JetBlue 2802, number 2, following traffic 3 mile final, runway 48,
All right. Let's see if we can get this to accelerate at all here.
Brickyard 4280,
Seeing
welcome
the
to
left
LaGuardia,
engine
taxi
accelerated.
Romeo, hold short of my 13.
And the right engine did not want to, no matter how much power I put to it. Yeah, it's going to set the alarm because the parking brake's set. I cannot melt that ice that's on there. No matter how much thrust we try to put on that engine, it will not generate more thrust. The only way we can get more thrust out of it
contact New York Center 125.32
is going to be to go back to the gate and put more ice, put some warm air on it. So, what we can do is, maybe we can do it sitting here. Well, this is going to be a very short flight at this rate. Very short flight. Let's see if we can put engine fan heating on when we're not at the gate and see if that'll work. So this would actually simulate someone actually walking out with a heat cart and actually just shoving hot air into the engine intake, which is what they would actually have to do. And we should have seen that on the walk around. The first officer should have reported that on the walk around. Even during the de-icing, somebody should have said, hey, there's ice accumulating on your fan blades. We'll let that happen for about a minute or so here and see if we can get some thrust out of it. So we wouldn't want to obviously do this with the engines running. This is absolutely a no-no, but just to see if we can get this flight running. So I obviously messed up, didn't think about it, didn't think about the amount of time it was sitting here. So I want to see if I can get some engine thrust out of there now. Now I can do that. All right, so we can take the engine heat off. We'll do a quick actual engine run here before departure. So you got to go to
4721, welcome to Kennedy
70% here.
Hold short of my 4 left.
You're supposed to do it for up to 30 seconds. Just make sure the aircraft is holding position. It's not sliding down the taxiway.
4280, cross runway 13 on Romeo, then taxi via Romeo, Golf, and Alpha to the ramp.
Romeo, Golf, Alpha to the ramp, cross runway 13, bring carry 42.
And New York, JetBlue 1961 will be ready to taxi back for another attempt momentarily here.
JetBlue 1961, roger. Hold position to survive when you're ready to taxi.
Okay, thank you.
Egypt Air 986 Heavy, Boston Center closed. Change to advisory approved today.
Over to Unicom. Good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, we'll clear that ECAM because that's just because we ran Toga power.
Delta 1930 near departure. Good morning. On departure, flight heading 100, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
JetBlue 1961 is ready to resume taxi.
JetBlue 1961, continue taxi via Bravo, Papa, cross runway 4.
Bravo Papa, cross 4, JetBlue 1961, thanks for the help. Alright. So same as before, Bravo Papa, straight ahead, crossing runway 4. It is mucky out there. We'll probably do at least a short engine run when we line up on the runway. I can't believe I didn't even think about that. All this time thinking about de-icing, didn't think about the engine run. Oh, Fenix, I love ya for making it real. For making it real, for making me have to do the real deal to try and get this stuff to happen. And I feel like an idiot. But this is what happens sometimes too, is there's just so much stuff going on. It's almost impossible to think about everything. You gotta, you gotta have checklists for everything, but you can't really have a checklist for every possible situation. It's almost impossible. All right, we never even killed the lights when we got off the runway either. Oh my God, I'm really falling behind here trying to, obsessing over the stupidity of this as well. It's just not helping my cause. I knew there was somebody on final. It's good that you communicated with somebody on final, so I knew I had to roll through the intersection, so I didn't even worry too much about stopping quickly. We hadn't reached a high speed yet anyway, so you know you're not going to... Stopping's not going to be an issue in terms of the distance you've got to cover left on the apron, so it's just a question of timing the stop in that case so that you're not in an awkward location like at the intersection of the two runways. So you're like, well, now that we can't use any runway at this airport. Trying to play
42, question 4721.
Play nicely in the sandbox, think about other people.
Turn right on Bravo, contact ground point Niner.
Continue on Foxtrot, cross 4 left, and
All right, for the second time, let's see if we can get airborne.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a right turn on Bravo once you clear the runway and ground point Niner today.
All right, so how's our fuel situation looking for? 9.2, so we burned about 400.
2802, welcome to Kennedy, Yankee Alpha, Foxtrot.
400 kilos. There's crossing 4. Clear left, clear right. I might just kill this dome light partially anyways. Not to dim. All right, and a quick PA to the back. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain speaking. Unfortunately, we had an issue with the aircraft, technical problem with the aircraft. That's been resolved now. We will be continuing back to the runway for another departure.
Out of 1549,
We appreciate your patience and understanding today. 400 kilos. Just looking at the flight plan really quickly. We did
1930 radar contact. Proceed direct ship.
We did have lots of extra fuel here, so we had 873 kilos of weather fuel. So we've burned through most of our weather fuel at this point.
2802, where are you entering the RAM?
But it seems like we're
2802, roger, cross runway 4 left on Foxtrot.
hold short of runway 4. But it does. We do have enough fuel to go and do this again. We've used up most of our contingency fuel with that issue and the de-icing as well, but that's okay.
United 1549, proceed direct.
Holding short 13.
United 1549, climb maintain flight level 250, and New York Center is closed. Change to advisor for today.
Advisor, thank you.
JetBlue 1961 short of 13 ready.
JetBlue 1961, roger. Runway 13 clear for takeoff, wind 140 at 7.
13 clear for takeoff, JetBlue 1961. Runway entry procedure.
Takeoff runway confirmed.
Confirm.
Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be seated for takeoff.
All right, try this again. Takeoff.
Check.
Mantoga, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Thrust set 100 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Autopilot 1. Nav. Wipers off. Climb, alt blue. Thrust climb, auto thrust. There, departure, JetBlue 1961, 2300 departing, or 2300 climbing 5000 departed 13.
JetBlue 1961, New York departure, radar contact. I was never notified. What's the departure are you flying?
Oh, sorry, it's the tennis.
JetBlue 1961, roger, climb and maintain 8000.
Climb 8000, JetBlue 1961. 8,000 feet is set. Flap 0.
Speed checked. Flap 0.
Alright, we're supposed to have max 220 knots for jutes, so I've reselected 220 knots for jutes. Crossed above 3,000, no problem, we made that one.
Good day, United. Factory Mike, Kilo 1 ready for departure.
United 53 Mike, New York departure, good morning.
Alright, well that took longer than expected. Thank you, Phoenix. Little egg on my face there.
Sliding 100 after departure and clear for takeoff runway further left, United Factory Mike.
JetBlue 1961, turn left heading 280, climb maintain 10,000.
Left turn 280 and climb 10,000, JetBlue 1961. Heading 280. And 10,000 feet set. Open climb heading all blue. Alright, we've made the 5,000 tennis restriction, so I'm going to go ahead and accelerate the aircraft at 250 knots, so we're not hanging on the edge just right below green dot there. Being a bit of a sluggish climber today, too. We are getting the full power out of the engines now, though. We are getting full climb thrust, but that's so embarrassing. I mean, that.
JetBlue 1961, flighting 260, climb maintain 12,000.
Heading 260, climb 12,000, JetBlue 1961. 12,000 feet set and heading 260. But I mean, that's you've got to think about these things. There's all these things you've got to think about. There's so many things you've got to think about on a departure that it's easy for one thing to escape. It's frustrating, but we are all human. That's why, like, you need a good, thorough checklist. And even then, the checklist just can't cover everything. So that was honestly quite embarrassing, but it is what it is. We dealt with it. We rejected. We could have gone back to the gate. It would have made the stream probably. I probably would have pulled the plug if I'd gone back to the gate to reheat the engines, because I can't afford to be that long on this stream as it is. It's gotten a lot later than I anticipated just with that issue. But that's the way aviation works too. You fall behind. Things don't work according to plan, and you move forward. You don't give up, but you also don't move forward until things are safe, and you don't give in to the time pressure. That is probably the most important thing. Alright, there we go. We're above, looks like we're above everything. Even the TAT's at plus 11 as we've accelerated here. So let's go ahead and get anti-ice off. And we're underway. Well, that took a lot longer than I ever expected. That took a lot longer than I ever expected to get going on our way to Palm Beach. That was probably about 30 to 40 minutes longer than expected. But it's the way it is. There's 10,000 climbing 12,000. Alright, I'm going to pull VS plus 1,000 speed, just so that we don't set off any TCAS when we level off at 12 here. Seatbelts off.
Data 53 Mike, radar contact, climb maintain 11,000.
1,000 to go.
11,000, climbing 12,000, thank you. Oh my god. I feel like this has already been a very long stream and we just got airborne.
FedEx 951 Heavy, New York departure, proceed direct, Newell, climb and maintain.
Alright, so we got showing 1.6 extra. Given how that this has now become screwed up, I'm going to use our captain's prerogative.
JetBlue 1961, the flight heading 220, expect on course and higher in just a minute.
Alright, heading 220, copy, JetBlue 1961. Alright, heading is 230.
Right, heading 230,
20. Alright, I've subbed in cost index 100. That gives us 1.4, ETA 1800. It's not too bad. It's later than I want it to be, but that's what it is. We are now behind schedule. We're supposed to be out the gate at 10. Yeah, so I think we're supposed to arrive at. Actually, it's not too bad. Actually, that puts us maybe 5 to 10 minutes behind by the time all is said and done. If we bump the cost index up there, alt. The target arrival time should have been. Let me think here. Target takeoff time, or target departure time was 10 o'clock, and it's a 2:59, so yeah, 1 o'clock. So it should have been 17:59 at the gate. We're showing 18:01 at the touchdown, so that's not bad. 5 minutes behind, considering de-icing and everything else. That's not a bad delay.
1961, proceed direct, white, climb maintain 17,000.
Directly to white and climb 17,000, JetBlue 1961. 17,000 feet set.
FedEx 3951.
Thrust climb, open climb, all blue. And direct white. Alright, so there's nav, white. Climbing to 17,000, there we go. Alright, we're underway. First stream of the new year, oh my god. And it was a doozy because I'm obviously an idiot who doesn't know what he's doing half the time. So much to think of.
Director Romeo Bravo Victor.
And when you're streaming, you kind of have this separate time pressure that's separate from like an OTP kind of pressure. Like I do have a limited amount of time in my day that I can do this stuff, that I can stream. So I really need to kind of make sure the flight happens within a reasonable period of time. Now, if I really wanted to end the flight early, I could probably declare an emergency at some point, trigger some kind of an emergency, declare an emergency, and land early, and I could do that, and I very much could do that. I think we've got enough time to finish this flight to Palm Beach, though, and I see a couple more people are watching now, so welcome to everybody who's watching. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, just got airborne. Very snowy morning, snowy, rainy, mucky morning in New York, so kind of glad we're out of there now. Now it's nice and sunny, we're above the clouds, and yeah, for those of you that are familiar with my channel, you may notice the difference. I'm now coming to you live in HD, so no longer 720. It's now been upped to 1080, so now you get a little bit of a nicer view of everything. Hopefully you guys notice the difference. I mean, you probably have to be kind of watching it on a fairly big full-screen monitor to notice the difference, but hopefully it makes it easier for you guys to see some of the details that I'm seeing here. I don't know if you can read this stuff on the screen. I have it on my other screen here, so let's just see if I go to full screen. How well can I read this stuff? It's not terrible. Not terrible. I can read it anyways. But yeah, anyways, welcome to the stream, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. It took a little while for us to get going here today, so. And then we think we have New York Center as well. I'm not sure if we'll talk to him. I think we do. 16 climbing 17. Q, let's do that again. Let's just go VS plus 1,000 speed. And sorry, I'm just looking over here just to see. Looks like we lost New York Center anyways.
Back at 147 near departure, hold short on my 4 left. Looks like you're taking the intersection there at Kilo 3 to hold position.
Just waiting to hear him turf me to Unicom.
Back at 147 near departure, hold short on my 4 left at Kilo 3.
But yeah, de-icing can add a whole bunch of delays anyways. It definitely Alt Star.
JetBlue 1961, climb maintain, flight level 240.
Climb flight level 240, JetBlue 1961. Flight level 240 set, 240, there's thrust climb, Alt Blue. Alright, but yeah, getting underway here. As soon as we switch off of New York, looks like there's no other center en route controllers right now for our flight down to Florida, so then we can have, and we can talk about what it is that I want to talk about today, which there's quite a lot because it's been a while, my friends. It's been so long since I streamed, and it's not the way I wanted it to happen, but it's just the way life is. It gets in the way. This is a hobby. It's a side gig, if it were. It's not even really much of a side hustle because I barely make any money out of it at the end of the day. I don't get a whole lot of viewers. Certainly Twitch and YouTube do not pay a lot of money in advertising revenues. They do pay something, but basically, like, it's not something that I could ever come close to living off of. All right, so there
Standard
is...
cost checked. Passing flight level 18Q. Now.
There you go. It's not something I could ever, you know, I couldn't make a living out of this. I definitely could make a living out of this, but it's just something that I kind of use to supplement my income and kind of sponsor a few things, mostly just, you know, purchasing add-ons for the simulator, hardware, you know, things like that. So you know, it kind of goes back into the hobby. It doesn't, you know, I mean, I won't say I don't benefit from it because I do benefit from it. I do benefit from the revenues, but most of it goes back to support the rest of the developers in this business, or donations to some of my favorite, you know, my favorite charities. I've now set up a recurring VATSIM donation because I did get a pay raise at work. I can now afford it, and I want to make sure that this network continues on. It is funded and continues to provide for people who don't have the means.
1961, Washington Center closed, change to advisor approved today.
Thank you so much for all your help this morning, JetBlue 1961. Over to the Unicom. We'll talk to you next time.
American 1739 is
All
going
right.
to maintain 900,000.
He didn't get mad about the, he barely even batted an eyelid at the rejected takeoff, which I was so happy about, because some controllers, you know, the second you do something emergency, especially if they're busy, and he said he isn't like crazy busy, but he was steady busy, you know, they get all upset, you have to log off now, I just can't deal with it. But the funny thing is, like, and I've noticed this, is that there's, you know, it's the controller's discretion, you know, the VATSIM code of conduct says that, you know, if you want to simulate an emergency, if the controller tells you that to stop simulating the emergency, then you have to either stop simulating the emergency or log off. But that gives the controller a lot of latitude. So if you sound like a professional, I find that they give you a lot of latitude. If you sound like a professional who's very specific in what they want and you don't take a lot of extra time from them, I find that they're very reasonable. All right, we'll go to 340 for now. I know our cruise is at 36, max 375. Okay, you know what? Yeah, we'll go to 36. That's fine. 375 is a pretty good margin. So flight level 360 is now set. But yeah, one thing I will say is, like, if you sound like a professional, and by that I mean it sounds like you know what you're doing, you're not going to cause them a lot of grief and a lot of extra headache. Usually I get very little pushback from declaring an emergency or an issue. The people who I think that tend to get told immediately, you have to stop that emergency, you have to log off, are the people who don't seem to know what they're doing when an emergency happens. So, you know, in this case, I just simply told him, JetBlue 1961 rejecting takeoff, and then he just simply gave me some instructions to get off the runway, and then boom, I was dealt with. He didn't have to worry about me until, you know, since I was off the runway and just parked on the taxiway, not a problem. I could sit there, you know, till the cows come home. If I stopped on the runway and stayed on the runway, he might query it and may tell me to get off the network. But again, it comes down to, because a lot of controllers do enjoy the variety of having an emergency declared. It spices things up a little bit. It changes the tempo. It changes what your priorities are, and you have to work around that problem. But if you're already at 99% capacity or 105% of your mental capacity, and then someone throws that on top of you, you can't deal with it. I get that, and I don't want to ever, you know, disparage anyone who says I can't deal with it right now, because sometimes you can't. Like, we are often asking the controllers on VATSIM to do more than their real-world counterparts would, because we've got more airplanes. We give them a larger amount of airspace, a larger amount of things to do. So I will never fault anyone, but most of the time I find the controllers, especially because when I do it, I try to sound professional. I tell them exactly just what's happening and what I want from them. And then they're like, yeah, I can give you that. Boom. I had one where I just declared an emergency, said I want to go to Albany. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, go direct here, descend this. You're recleared to Albany. And it's like, you know, make it easy. Don't make it hard on them. Don't make them, you know, have to pull to get every little bit of information out of you. Make it very reasonable for them to get the information that they need out of you. But I find that most of the controllers are generally I won't say they're happy. Some controllers are happy. Some of them, it makes them smile, or at least it makes them sweat, but in a good way. And they're like, oh yeah, let me see if I can remember the procedures going with this. But that's what I find, is that they're generally, if you know what you're doing, know what you want, and don't monopolize their time, they're very happy to deal with it. But that clause of the VATSIM code of conduct gives controllers a big out for people who really end up monopolizing their time when they have an emergency, and that is often the case. I have heard people who have emergencies and they don't know what to do, and they expect the controllers to tell them what to do. It's like, it's your airplane, you fly it, you just tell me what resources you need, what clearances you need from me, what information you need from me as a controller, and I'll give that information to you. But I can't do this. I can't make the decisions for you. I can't. I can maybe make suggestions if I know your situation. But again, it comes down to, you know, not reducing anybody else's enjoyment of the network just by you know, with your needs. Your needs trump everybody else's. It's like, we all need to enjoy this network. There were a couple times. There was one time where I did have, as a controller, I did have an aircraft declare an emergency, and it was kind of taking up a bit of my time. It was kind of a little bit preoccupying. What I ended up doing was I ended up putting a couple guys in holds. But before I did that, so I was working. It was in Toronto, and I can't remember if I was working the terminal or not. But I probably was working center, but I just asked a couple guys who were inbound, would you mind holding for a few minutes while I just deal with this? And the pilots are like, yeah, sure, I love to do a hold. Nobody ever asked me to do a hold. I don't even remember how to program a hold, but let me go and figure it out. Like, they were excited about doing it because, again, it's the unusual, you know, as much as, you know, pilots in general are a goal-driven, we want to get there kind of mentality. Certainly when you get into VATSIM as a hobby, you know, something unusual that comes up, that's why, like, you know, That's why a lot of people do like the Fenix, because things go wrong in the Fenix, not just when you click the button, but sometimes just by mistake, either by your actions or inactions. In this case, with my rejected takeoff because we couldn't get takeoff thrust, or whether it's just a random failure that happens and you just got to deal with it. But I like those kind of things. I like the random failures. It's interesting. It throws. That's life. Life is not ever clean and neat and follow the rules every time. It's all over the map. So, anyways, but yeah. So I'm happy that he let me have my little thing there and deal with what I was trying to deal with. I'm very happy that he didn't bat an eyelid at it. He just like, oh sure, because he sounded busy enough that like he could have potentially said something. All right, outside air temperature is minus 47 degrees, so we do not need to turn on the anti-ice for the rest of the clouds that we're coming into here, so that's fine. Let's see here. Let me just what am I trying to do here? Sorry, I'm just trying to do one thing here really quickly on my device. I kind of noticed that. Do what I'm trying to do here. Sometimes apps are like, oh, I have to send you 7 messages before I can let you actually do what you want to do. All right. Anyway, so we're underway. So, big news. What do we got to talk about? I mean, we've got lots of things we can talk about. To me, one of the biggest things that came up recently, and this was just, I think, last week or the week before, and to me, it's huge. It's big. This is as big as it gets right now. And that was the announcement from Parallel 42. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think it was about a week ago, Parallel 42 announced that ChasePlane will be released for Microsoft Flight Simulator imminently, soon. TM was what they said. Soon, as in it is in their wide beta now. So it's gone from their closed alpha to the closed beta to the wide beta. So it's not publicly available, but it is in their large beta teams testing phase. So yeah, imminent probably means the time is measured in weeks, maybe a couple of months at most, but it is coming soon. And I don't know about you guys, but to me that is just absolutely fantastic news. The camera controls in this sim are best described as clunky. There is some neat stuff you can do with it, but the limitations of the way the system is designed are, you can deal with it and it's fine, but knowing what is possible in the from the ChasePlane FSX P3D era, knowing what is possible and then seeing what a Sobo did, I mean it was a step backwards. I think over the default controls they had in FSX and P3D, yes, Asobo took a step up from that. But when you compared what Asobo's default MSFS controls are like to what is available in ChasePlane,
1,000 to go.
Check. There's a lot of there's a lot of room for growth and improvement. There's a lot of room for ChasePlane to come in and basically to do what they did before. If they came and brought the same app with most of the same features they had before, I would be happy with that. What they had before was great, especially as a content producer who's trying to interact with the audience and show the audience different parts of the aircraft. Asobo has limited us to 10 cameras, essentially. Just waiting for this to level off here and just make sure it does level off properly. But Asobo has limited us to 10 cameras in the default sim, and that's a fair number. But when you look at the complexity of a flight deck like this, and certainly as for me interacting, there's Mach Called Star, for me interacting as a user, it's not too bad. But for me as a content streamer, R.A. Goodnight Gaming, yo, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Just leveling off in cruise on our way down to West Palm Beach. So yeah. There's Mach Alt Cruise. So to me, the big thing is that, like, yeah, you're limited to 10. And most of the time, like, I will say, like, the 10 views they have, Ragnite, sorry. Just because of the capitals, I thought it was R.A. Goodnight. But sorry, Ragnite Gaming, my apologies. Yeah, because of the, the default views, yes, you can see most of the stuff here. And I obviously don't have my track IR centered there, but you can see all the important things around the flight deck. But the trouble is, like, especially like with these overhead views and these panel views, is that it's still pretty far back and it's still pretty hard. If I go to the overhead view again here, it's still pretty hard to see what all the individual switches are in the flight deck from here. And this is where ChasePlane came in great, because they had like an almost infinite number of views that you could customize. So you could have a view of like, this is the light panel, this is the hydraulic panel, and you could zoom in very close to all the different panels. Which company is it? It's after we talk about ChasePlane, it's called Parallel 42 is the company that's going to release ChasePlane, and I looked at couple of preview shots, and it looks very similar to the interface they had for ChasePlane in FSX and P3D era, where you will have an infinite number of internal, external, third location cameras that you can rename, and you can adjust. Today we're doing a JetBlue flight. We are JetBlue 1961. We're on our way. We left LaGuardia, where it was raining, snowing, and totally miserable. We're on our way down to West Palm Beach, where it's going to be nice and sunny. But yeah, I'm so excited about ChasePlane. I think it's going to be, for content creators, it's going to be a game changer, because you're going to be able to have an infinite number of camera views. You can jump back and forth between them very quickly and easily. And the other thing I found about ChasePlane that was great was their control system for the camera views was fantastic. They had these little sliders on the interface, and you could just slide it so the camera is just moving very slowly, or you could move the slider to the very top and move very quickly. But it made it very easy to fine tune and to get exactly where you want to. And the same with the roll and the pan. I find with the drone camera, yes, you can adjust the drone camera speed, but I find, again, it's not a very intuitive. It's not very intuitive to use. I mean, you can. It is kind of a little bit intuitive, but certainly it's hard to scale it well. You're either moving the drone very slowly in small intervals, but you can't cover a big distance quickly and easily, or you can cover those big distance quickly and easily, move the drone camera quickly, but then you cannot fine tune it. It's always like it's a key press, so immediately you've moved 4 feet with every single press of the key, instead of being able to just subtly move through those. So it looks to me like that's what ChasePlane has done. Let me just see if I can find the screenshot. It was just 1 or 2 screenshots I saw, but it looked like it's very similar to what was originally what the original ChasePlane looked like. So yeah, here it is. So this is what I found here. Was this is directly from ChasePlane's blog. And so here's the picture. I'm not sure if I go like this, if it's going to get any bigger. Not really. But you can see you've got the list of all the different camera views you can click on. So they don't have anything else about the interface. I'm certainly hoping that they have the same sliders they had before, because the sliders as well were absolutely fantastic. It just made it it made it nice. It made it very easy to make kind of nice cinematic videos, but it also made it very easy to very precisely define exactly what you wanted. So for example, I am now trying to start a new video series where I have a tutorial for the A320, which seems redundant because there's 1,000 tutorials out there, but I have to say, like, it's already, I've released the first video already, and it's gotten very good feedback, and it's gotten very good viewership. It's going to take a while for each video, but the one thing I find I'm trying to do with the flight deck is I am trying to just jump around using the default camera controls, because I find it is cleaner than track IR is nice as a user myself, but for people watching a video, it's very clunky. It's hard to hold a position steady long enough while you're looking at something. And as me, processing it in real time, it's kind of okay. But for trying to produce a video, track IR is not the best system, because it's very hard to hold positions in track IR. So I find myself, of course, I'm using the camera controls in the sim, but that again, you're limited to the number of controls you have. You're constantly jumping around with the keyboard. It's not nearly as smooth and slick as ChasePlane. ChasePlane not only had the where you could customize positions, but you could also customize the acceleration curves that got you from position A to position B. So you could either do it instantly, you could do it with a very nice, slow, gentle acceleration to that position. You could do it very quickly. So many, just in terms of how the camera was controlled, was absolutely fantastic. And the nice thing too is having the list of custom named positions so that you're not fishing around. Sometimes, like I am honestly, and you saw this throughout the video already, I'm fishing around. I'm like, which one's the tablet? Is it this one? No, that's not the tablet. That's the tablet. That's the other tablet. Like, sometimes you find yourself fishing around for which controls are which, especially because different camera positions are defined differently in different aircraft. If you fly multiple aircraft, which position was I looking at? So having a list of named views that you can just click on the view you want, and you can even assign hotkeys to them. You can also have like a cycle through the cameras next and previous, like you can have hotkeys for that. But I just find that from a content creator perspective especially, it's just so much more control of the camera system. Default camera system, it works, it gets the job done, but it has nothing on what ChasePlane did in previous iterations. So if ChasePlane brings exactly what they brought to P3D and FSX, they're going to have a winner on their hands. It's a day one purchase for me, hands down, because I miss it. I miss it every single time I do a video, because I find that I don't have the I just don't have the fine control over the cameras that I would like to as a streamer, as a content creator. I would like to have a little bit better control over the cameras than I do, and I can customize the camera positions, but I'm still only limited to 10 of them. And the other thing that always bothers me, and it bothers me to no end, is the home. Sometimes it comes to the up position, sometimes it comes to the down position. Which are you in? Are you in the top or the bottom position? And trying to create videos and have it come to where you want it. Sometimes it's challenging. It's challenging and frustrating. So I'm so excited. That is, like I said, day one purchase to me. It's so long overdue. It's been 5 years now, I guess, since we've gotten FS 2020. But yeah, to me, it is just a no-brainer. It was such a good piece of software. When I got ChasePlane, it just changed the way I made videos for the better. And it really helps too for production of not just streams, but also just like offline videos, like I said, the tutorials. Because what I'm doing in the tutorials is I am basically just jumping around from views, and here's the overhead view, and I'm kind of moving the mouse around and clicking the buttons, but it's very hard to see. Like, I've had to add little blue squares over everything I'm pressing to kind of highlight what I'm pressing on the panel. Wouldn't it be nice if I could go more directly to the panel that I'm looking at, go directly to the electrical panel and just show just the electrical panel, and show what I'm doing on there more directly than trying to work with this overhead view. So I am so excited. I don't know about you guys. ChasePlane, so long overdue. I thought it was never coming. I was so over the moon when I saw that video come out. I saw that news come out that they're going to be releasing ChasePlane for MSFS. I was just like, finally, thank goodness. It's about time. It's been so long in coming, and I'm just. That is more than anything super excited about. The other thing that was always nice about ChasePlane, and this is one of those things where it's a nice add-on. It's not a deal breaker, but it was always a nice add-on. Was the flyby cameras in the exterior view that you could do, that you could set up cinematic mode. So for those of you that don't remember, if you go back and look at my videos from 5 years ago when I was flying a P3D, and whenever I'd take a break, especially, like I'd go use the washroom or grab a lunch or something like that, and I'd come back and sit down, while I was gone, I would put it on external view. And external view was always wonderful. I'm just going to adjust the volume down here for a second before I hit external view, because what the external view would do is it would just sort of not that, this. Trying to catch up to the airplane. There it is. But what it would do is it would just, it would do like, not that fast, but it would just do like gentle pans past the airplane. And there would just be sort of pseudo-random. I'm not sure if they were 100% random, but anyways, pseudo-random, pseudo-computerized random. But it would just create such nice cinematics. It would also have a nice fade in and out between each one. So it would fade gently to black, and then it would move the camera somewhere else. It would fade back in, and it would just gently fly past the airplane. It would do that. Like, you could adjust the speed, but you could have like 30 minutes or 30 seconds, I think, was the maximum you could have between transitions. So it would take different 30 seconds, just gentle slide past the airplane here. Now we're going to slide past the airplane this way. It's very nice cinematics for when you step away from the airplane, so that it's something more interesting than just looking at the airplane, just kind of flying over the clouds, but nothing much is happening. So that was a nice to have, and it'd be great to have that again. If it doesn't, it's not a deal breaker for me. For me, the deal breaker was having the fine camera controls. That's what I really want to see. But assuming it does what it did in the past, this is going to be, like I said, a day one purchase for me. It's going to be just absolutely wonderful to have. So this is the JetBlue with the sharklets today, and I do like the name of it there underneath the flight deck windows. 1, fly JetBlue. 2, repeat step 1. I do like JetBlue. They do have some amusing names for their aircraft. This one I believe is called Barcode. So that's the tail. That's the tail pattern for this is called Barcode. Another Jviation JetBlue livery for the Fenix, and yeah, I see why Fenix has promoted this guy and put all his liveries on there as part of the official livery downloads, because they are just fantastic liveries. He's got a whole variety of them. He must have at least 30 published JetBlue liveries between the 320. The 320 straight wings, the 320 sharklets, and the 321 sharklets. So I'm happy that happy to continue using these. I thought I'd do something different, so we did the CFM with the sharklets. It was supposed to be an A320. I like the A321 better, but nevertheless, it's a nice looking airplane today, and the sharklets definitely make things interesting. Quite a bit wider. Usually, you get better performance. You do get noticeable performance boost out of the A320 with the sharklets. It climbs a little faster. It cruises with a little bit less fuel burn, because those sharklets increase the efficiency of the wing overall. The only thing is you've got to consider the fact that the airplane has now got 118-foot wingspan. It's 117 8 inches, I think. So essentially 118, which if you ever look at it, and if you're ever looking at like airports, that is the maximum narrow body wingspan. Almost every that ICAO has set that as the standard. 36 meters or 118 feet is the narrow body wingspan maximum. So most places, when they're trying to set standards, if they want a narrow bodies to taxi down certain taxiways or park at certain gates, 118 feet is the minimum, is the target minimum width. And anything less than that, you're going to assume is a non-narrow body. You're talking regional jet or something smaller facility, whether it be taxiway or, but you see that a lot of places you see a max span 118 feet. This thing's 117 foot 8 inches, so we're 4 inches short of that 118 foot max. It feels tight when you're taxiing through some of those taxiways with this wingspan on there. Anyways, that was my first big news, and that I'm super excited about was that yeah, we have ChasePlane on its way, imminently going to release, possibly before I get my next stream in at the rate I'm going. The second big piece of news for me anyways is the fact that, of course, as I mentioned at the start of the video, those of you that are not familiar with it or look more closely at the channel today will notice that today we are streaming in, we're streaming at what I'm going to call HD anyways. We are streaming at 1080p. So we used to stream at 720. We're now streaming at 1080p because I now have a brand new, well, now it's several weeks old, but a brand new GTX 4070 heating up the inside of my computer case. Although I actually have to say, like, I'm pretty impressed. Even running this simulator, it does a very good job. It doesn't heat up. Like, it warms up, but like it's not like it's overheating my case or anything like that. Like, it does generate some nice graphics without getting too hot. But I did spring for the MSI RTX 4070 to upgrade my sim rig. So now I'm flying in 1440p, 1440, and then I'm streaming out at 1080p. 1920 by 1080 is now the output stream. So hopefully you guys are noticing a little bit better details, a little bit less fuzziness to it. And now that we are away from New York City, we're maintaining a little bit more of a solid frame rate. Being in New York City, because I jacked the specs on the sim. I didn't jack everything to high by any means. The 4070 can't do everything high because part of it is I need a better CPU as well. My CPU is not bad. I believe it's an i7, so it's not bad, but it could be better. But yeah, so I've had to sort of I've increased a bunch of settings, and I did increase the resolution overall, so that things, especially to me on my screen now, look really nice and crisp. But obviously that comes with a performance hit. The sim runs better than it used to, but the frame rate is only about 5 to 10 frames faster than it used to run, especially with the Fenix. It's running a little bit faster, but it's not running all that much faster. Now, when you take a default airplane in this sim, and I can get up to 60, 70, 80 frames when I'm running a default airplane, because Fenix just takes so much, and it's the background processing as well as all the screens and everything else. Fenix takes so much that I'm back to 30 frames, which is very reasonable. I was having a hard time even maintaining 30 frames on my old 1060. So this 4070 replaced a 1060. I can't believe I was able to stream and fly this simulator with that. But again, I had to turn the detail level down a fair bit, had to have the resolution reasonably low in order for it to function. So it's just nice to be up there. So I'm hoping you guys are noticing the difference. I'm hoping it's a little bit easier for you to follow what I'm doing and see what's actually going on the screen. I know a lot of you probably are watching on these little device screens that probably you can't tell the difference between a 780 and a 1080 video, any 720 and 1080 video on those kind of screens. But I'm hoping that I'm hoping that this will still improve the experience overall and make it a little nicer. The one thing, of course, that I did find now that I have been working a little bit with the 1080 is that my video processing, so my post-processing of the videos, which I do usually on my laptop because I can take it away with me and I can do it while I'm on the road and everything else, it's my processor and my graphics card in there having a hard time keeping up with 1080 or even 1440p videos that I'm recording and then trying to move into the editor, and they can't even play them, a lot of them, in real time in the video editor, especially if there's anything layered with it. So what I found I had to do was actually resample the entire video down to a low-res version just for the sake of editing. So I could watch it, I could make sure everything kind of comes together nicely, and then when I'm ready to actually export the full-on video into its own file, then I load all the high-res videos in and just export it like that. But in terms of trying to edit and watch parts of the video over and over again and put stuff together when you're running with these high-res videos, I found that my processor was often not able to play it in real time and would stutter as it was trying to play it in the video editor, especially if there's, like I said, if there's more than one layer of anything going on, it couldn't keep up with it. So I've had to down mix the layers just for the sake of the processing portion, and then when the processing's done and I'm sure everything is lined up and everything is cut at exactly where it needs to be, then I can load the high-res versions in there. But my laptop apparently cannot keep up with the trying to video edit 1080 and 1440p videos. But I managed to find a workaround around that pretty quickly. So, so I did mention the other thing that I recently started, and so those of you that have been watching my channel for a while hopefully saw this already, and chances are if you're watching this on YouTube, you've already seen this, but I have started a new video series in my channel. So this is something I've been toying with for the better part of 6 months or so at least. I've been toying with it for a while, and it finally has sort of come to a head, and I've said, you know what, I really want to do it. I've had a couple people now actually specifically request it, and that is I've created a walkthrough tutorial video of the A320. So very similar to what I've done in the past with the Q400. I know that I did the systems. I think I did the walkthrough, but with the Embraer, I recently did a walkthrough of all the SOPs and kind of a basic, like, here's how you fly the Embraer, real world, using a kind of a lousy copy that's incomplete, that's in development. But anyways, I did that whole video series. That video series has proved to be very popular, and I will say I looked at it and I said I'm going to take advantage of this because the Embraer is not a popular airplane. You look at the A320, and the A320 is it's everywhere. It's been around for 40 years. Okay, for 40 years? Yeah, it's been almost 40 years, I guess. It's been around for almost 40 years, and since way before the birth of the internet, and it's such a common airplane. It's so ubiquitous. Airlines all around the world fly it. There's thousands upon thousands of copies of it flying in the real world. There's a crazy number of A320 products available in MSFS, especially now. It's insane when you start to think about it. So there is a default. There's the default A320 that comes with a sim from Asobo, which has been improved a little bit over the years. There is the fly-by-wire version, which started out as a fork, but has kind of gone to its own. There's obviously the Fenix now. FS Labs has now released their A320. I scoff at their general direction, but nevertheless, they have released that product. I'm pretty sure I&I Builds has put out their own version of the A320. That's 5 different developers who have released a copy of the A320 in MSFS alone. And that's off the top of my head. I think I might be missing one even. But just think about that for what other aircraft in this simulator, or almost in any simulator, has 5 different versions, including 3 payware versions, a freeware version, and a default version as well. But so many different versions that you can choose from. So it just, to say that it's a popular airplane would be the understatement of the year. So I hemmed and hawed over doing a tutorial series on the A320 for a long time because of that. Because I said it's been done. The Embraer, no. The Embraer is a very, relatively speaking, uncommon airplane. There weren't too many air developers that had ever produced an Embraer for any sim. So it wasn't very common. And it's a nice little airplane to fly. Don't get me wrong; it's a great airplane to fly, and I think, it almost is surprising that it's gone as long as it has without having a good developer, produce that aircraft for the sim, because it's a fantastic simming airplane. It's a very highly advanced, highly automated airplane. So if you want something that's fairly easy to jump into for simmers, it's a very good airplane. The checklists are very short. The flows are generally very short because it's so automated. It makes the 320 look like a manual airplane by comparison. It's extremely automated. Extremely good avionics. The only trouble is those are hard to simulate because they're very customized and very specific to that airplane. So there's obviously a lot of effort would go into the avionics. But it's, again, regional jet for me is it makes a lot of sense to simmers because you can do a flight in a very reasonable amount of time without committing half a day to a flight. You want to do a 777 flight, transatlantic, you're committing the better part of a day to that. Now you can walk away during cruise and things like that, of course, but you know what I mean? Like, if you want something that's interesting, that is a reasonable workload, but it's also reasonable to get done in an hour and a half, 2 hours, regional flying's where it's at. The CRJ made a lot of sense. The Embraer even more so. I think the Embraer, it was shocking it took as long as it did, but that there's not nearly as many of them out there in the real world. There's not nearly as much information out there. So my tutorial series that I did for the Embraer has been shockingly popular. If I pull up my device, but like it's for months and months and months now, it's been my top videos on a daily, weekly, on a weekly or monthly basis at least. So last 28 days, my E175 tutorial 1 is my most popular video. My E175 tutorial 3 is my second most popular video. Then 2 of my Q400 series videos are in there. And then, again, the Embraer tutorial 8, the ILS approach. So those are my 5 top videos in the last 28 days are the Embraer series. Not only do people like that airplane and they want to kind of understand how to fly it, because it is different from the Airbus and the Boeing. It's got a lot of similarities, but there are enough differences that you do have to kind of really understand how to fly that particular airplane. But it's not common out there. There's not that much information out there. There's not that much experience with it out there on the internet versus the A320. The A320 is just, when you say airliner, most people probably picture an A320 right off the bat. They might start with like a 47, but like it is the most common aircraft type in existence now, I believe. They surpassed Boeing about 5 years ago for having the most. It's the most common airliner in history now. Up until I think it was about 5 or 10 years ago, the 737 was the most common airliner ever produced. And now the A320 has leapfrogged past the 737. And the crazy thing when you think about that is the fact that the 37 was released 30 years sooner. 30 years earlier than the Airbus, and yet now Airbus has made more copies of the A320 than Boeing has ever made of the 37, which just goes to show you how popular it is in terms of just being an efficient airplane. It's relatively, well, it's not that easy to train on. It takes some time, but it's certainly, the operators like it. It's everything is well standardized on it. What can I say? The operators really like it. So there's so many videos out there. So I hummed and hawed for a long time. Should I do a tutorial video? Is it just going to get lost in the noise? But I had a number of people say, I like your Embraer videos. I like your style. I want you to do the A320 video. So I finally, after a while, I finally said, okay, like I thought about it. I said, let's try this anyway. So let's see. I decided to start writing some scripts and do some recordings to see how well I could do it. And then, of course, the other thing that came along, too, I recorded these just a little while before I got the new video card. Then it's like, I recorded the whole set of videos, and I'm like, well, I've got the HD option now. Why am I going to use the lower res option? So now this is my chance to also do it in a higher res, just to improve my output, the output that you guys are seeing. Because especially if you're watching videos on YouTube and things like that, where you can pause it in real time and everything, and you can even try to zoom in a little bit and see stuff. So I finally bit the bullet and I said, let's try it. So I released the first one. I got to say, like, it's gotten good reception. It's not going to be, it's never going to be a viral video that's going to go into the top 100 videos on YouTube of all time. But it's gotten some very respectable numbers in the first, it's basically been less than a week, I think. What day did I release that video on? It's been, I think, less than a week. Let me just check here. Nope, that's not correct. That's not what I'm trying to find. That's what I'm trying to find. It's only been out for three and a half days now, and it's yeah, so it's not catching up to the Embraer just because of the length of time, but it's definitely gotten quite a lot of views in the last 3.5 days. So yeah, you know, it's enough that I feel like, and I've gotten some good responses to it as well. So I appreciate everyone who comments on my videos. I try to respond to most of the comments if I can. If there's questions or anything, if I know the answer, I try to respond to most of the comments because it really helps me just understand what people are looking for. I don't want to waste my time producing videos that people don't want to see. You know, I do this a lot for me and for people around me, but you know, if I feel like nobody's going to watch a video, then there's no point in me putting time and effort into it, because I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. It takes usually a couple of weeks of fairly reasonable work, you know, several hours a week for a couple of weeks to get these videos out there. So like the total, this video that I just did, and it's only 16 minutes long, I think, 16 minutes and 13 seconds. I probably put easily 15 to 20 hours worth of work into it. Between setting up the recordings, researching and writing the scripts, and then editing it all together and trying to create a cohesive video, it's easily 15 to 20 hours I put into. It's hard to say because, like, the thing is, I put it in often in little spurts. I'll have like a half an hour here or an hour there where I'll try to put some time into it, and I won't necessarily get through it as quickly as I would like. In fact, I can tell you, I don't get through it as quickly as I'd like. But often, you know, I do it in little bits of downtime here and there, and distraction often creeps in as well, where I don't, you know, I don't get as much accomplished in an evening or an afternoon as I think I'm going to, or as I would like to. So it's yeah, it's. I don't want to invest that time if I don't think people are going to get a benefit out of it. Now, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of people, but as long as some people get some benefit out of it. So that's been kind of my push the last little while, and the one that really kind of tipped the scales for me too is that my brother has actually started to show an interest in flight simming, and especially the A320. He's really shown an interest in the A320. He's like, it's such a complicated machine. It would be really interesting and satisfying to kind of know and understand how it operates. So he's got the fly-by-wire 320 installed at his house, and he's been flying a little bit and practicing here and there, very intermittently. But next week he's going to come over to my house and you know, use the Fenix in my house and just try it out. Yeah, he's thinking about buying the Fenix because it's such a good airplane. I've recommended it very highly, but he was kind of one of the people who kind of really pushed me over to the edge to, like, you know, I want to make a tutorial that's really going to help people like that. But the only thing I worry about too when I make these tutorials is that I do tend to get fairly in depth. There's so much detail. But I like to provide context. I don't want to just tell you, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. I want you to understand why you're doing this and when to make choices about what you're doing. So when do you choose, you know, when can you use flex takeoff? When can you use packs on takeoffs? When are you restricted to only doing a packs off takeoff? You know, these are the kind of things that I like to kind of explain in my videos. So even the simplest videos end up being quite lengthy. I'm in the middle of working on video number two, which basically just covers the flight deck flow. Is looking like it's going to easily be 20 to 25 minutes, but that's not because the flight deck flow itself takes 20 to 25 minutes, but because, again, there's lots of extra little detail explanations around the edge. You know, I start with about a 1 to 2 minute explanation of what the different lights in the flight deck mean, what the dark flight deck concept is, that sort of thing. So I try to add some context so people really kind of learn and understand the airplane, not just do this, do this, do this, okay, press go. You know, I want you to understand why you're doing certain things as much as possible so that you can make realistic decisions and you can hopefully remember them easier as well. I find that for myself, if I understand why I have to do procedures in a certain order, it helps me remember. Oh, you have to do this before that because of this. Oh, okay, great. I will make sure I always do this before that. Whereas if you just memorize it by rote and don't think about the whys, I find that it's easy, especially after a little while, for that, you know, the brain fades a little bit and you forget which order to do stuff in because you don't understand the why you're doing it in that order. All right, let's just have a quick little status check here. Status check. We are, max is at 38, we're cruising at 36. Right now, we are estimating landing in PBI at 17:57. That's 1 hour and 30 minutes from now. This is 621 miles with 3.4 when we get there. Now that we're in cruise, we're not burning too much gas. We are going pretty fast. Mach 796. Looks like we're targeting almost 8.0 there. And I'm just going to put in a time check. So 17:27 is going to be my 30 minutes to landing time check. But we're getting there. We've already crossed a good portion of the country here. Let's see if I recognize any of these airports here. I don't even know what airports these are. There's Wilmington. What if I put VORDME? Does that help? GSB, ISO, ECG, TY. I don't know any of these. Where are we? Where are we? It looks like we're crossing, I think we're in North Carolina right now. I think we just left Virginia and kind of getting into North Carolina by the looks of it. But let's have a little... the other thing I can do is I just don't recognize any of these VORs or anything. I can pull this up and pull this back to just the en route map and see. So yeah, it looks like we're kind of coming over to sort of eastern North Carolina. Right now, I think we passed over Virginia already, so yeah. We're going to go offshore for a little bit as we head down towards Florida. We're going to go offshore out of South Carolina and approach the Palm Beach Airport from offshore. So, yeah. Anyways, not much happening today, and unfortunately, not much VATSIM coverage now. We had VATSIM coverage. It's gone again. Goodbye. So long. Farewell. Oh well. Too bad. But what else can we talk about here? So that was, yeah, that was my, that's kind of a little bit of an update. So you could expect hopefully a new A320 tutorial video to drop every 3-ish weeks. Is kind of my hopeful target, and I think it doesn't work out that way all the time, but that's kind of my hope, because I'm always kind of working on like 2 at the same time. I have like one in like early pre-production where like I'm kind of looking through the SOPs and trying to write a script and trying to figure out how I'm going to explain different concepts, and then I usually have a second one that has usually been recorded and is in like the video editing phase where I'm editing it all together. So usually I'm kind of have 2 videos going on at the same time, so it's hard to say exactly how long each one's going to take, but it also depends on how complicated the topic is. The pre-flight flow, there's just a lot of different items to cover. So, and then after that, it's going to be another video with just the FMGC programming, and then the 4th video is just going to be just about the takeoff briefing, which it's not something that most simmers ever really think about, but to me, it's an important topic, and I really kind of argue that right at the start of the video. You can skip the video if you really want to, but at the end of the day, it's all about having a plan and making sure you know and understand what your plan is, and the best way to do that is to verbalize it, not just to pay lip service to it and kind of like, okay, that looks like the chart, yes, I think I have it, it kind of looks like outright, but no, really think about what your plan is, your plan of takeoff, because we were talking about this, who was I talking about this with? I think it might have been with my brother, but like, yeah, we spend 45 minutes preparing the airplane for takeoff. And why do we spend 45 minutes preparing the airplane for takeoff? Because during the takeoff, things happen extremely quickly, and you don't really have time to think. You know, if there's an engine fire, or you know, a tire blows up, or anything like that happens, you don't have time to think. You're stuck in a very you're stuck with a very small window of time to react. So you need to have basically made most of your decisions and made most of your plans ahead of time, so that when something does go wrong during the takeoff roll, and inevitably eventually something will, you already know what your choices are. Even the things that we don't necessarily cover are things that especially captains need to always have in the back of their mind. If a tire blows up at this speed, you're gonna continue or reject. If you get a wind shear warning, are you going to continue or are you going to reject? You know, and you need to be able to make that decision in less than a second of whether you're going to continue or reject. So you need to have kind of weighed all these consequences and say, what are the likely scenarios? What are the different risk factors? Is it a dry runway? Okay, rejecting is probably a pretty reasonable option. Is it a wet runway? Is it contaminated? Okay, you know, we probably don't want to reject unless we really, really seriously believe we cannot get the airplane airborne. Some things are pretty obvious. You know, the engine blows up before you hit V1. Okay, we're going to reject 100%. But it's those gray cases where it's like something went wrong. It wasn't terrible, but something went wrong. What do you do? Like a tire, like, you know, in most cases, if you're approaching V1, it's better to get airborne with a broken tire than to try and stop on the runway, because the trouble is you're stopping on the runway is based on the idea that all your brakes are going to work. If you blow one of your main tires, you only have 3 tires contact the runway instead of 4, you're going to have less braking action. Are you going to be able to stop in that remaining runway? You know, and how much extra strain are you going to put on that aircraft? You know, if you have you know, if you're perhaps overweight or over landing weight, or you're certainly a heavy aircraft anyways, you know, you're going to put a lot of strain on the aircraft to stop it right away. You know, assuming that the debris does not hit anything else, you're probably better off getting airborne, circle around for a little while, burn off some fuel, come back, maybe even go on to your destination. You know, what if this is not a company station? What if you are in Nassau and you know, and you blow a tire on departure? Do you really want to come back and land in Nassau and strand everyone in Nassau? I mean, I'd love to have a layover in Nassau, but you know, is that the best course of action? If the airplane's systems are working fine, the engine wasn't damaged by tire debris, we could probably continue on to some other airport, you know, on some other airport that's perhaps a maintenance base, where then we can immediately get mechanics out there fixing the airplane. So, you know, what choices do you make? These decisions have to be made in a matter of a second. Captain has to make those decisions in a second, so you've got to have a lot of stuff kind of pre-planned, and that's why we do this. That's why we brief an engine out procedure. If an engine fails, boom, I know what we're going to do. We're going to do this. Boom. All I got to do is say, okay, engine out. Follow that procedure we talked about. You know, and at what speed can I reject the takeoff? Well, great. We already put it into our computer, or we came up with a V1 number. That V1 number is the decision already made. We've already weighed the runway conditions, the wind, the weight of the aircraft, the takeoff thrust setting we're going to use, all those things. We've already weighed all those factors, and we've come up with this value. And after this value, we are committed to flight. As long as the airplane will fly, we are committed to flight. But we've done the thinking before we get to the runway, so that when things happen quickly in a takeoff, we don't have to do much thinking. We don't have to do a whole lot of talk, because we're going to follow the plan we've already announced. And that's why the takeoff briefing is so important. It enunciates the plan. And even if you're a simmer, even if you fly single pilot all the time, brief yourself. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself what you're going to do, so that nothing surprises you. Because most briefings generally follow fairly systematic. You know, order, where you touch on certain points in a certain order every single time, so you don't miss points. And that is part of the good habit of having a good briefing, is that you know the gotchas that have gotten you in the past. So things like today, for me, I didn't even think about the I thought about the de-icing. I looked outside, I thought about the icing. For whatever reason, did not even cross my mind about doing an engine run up before departure. And then, so of course, you got ATC pressing you, okay, traffic's on a 3-mile final, you're clear for takeoff. It's like, well, I can't do an engine run now because it's going to take 30 seconds, and I didn't announce it ahead of time, so I guess we're just going to go. And of course, didn't have it. But I didn't even think about it, and that's I'm kicking myself over not thinking about it. But definitely, that's something that I'm going to enunciate in further briefings even more thoroughly, is I'm always going to say engine run-up required or not required. And even if things are not required, as long as you hit those points to make sure that you're thinking about them every time, so the days where they are required, oh yeah, we got to think about that today. Terrain, not required. Oh wait, no, yes, we are at a mountainous airport. We're in Los Angeles, or we're in Las Vegas. We're at a mountainous airport. We do need to have terrain up on the display for departure. You know, a lot of these things we talk about the briefing, they don't come up every time, but you've got to sort of have yourself a prompt. You know, every single time I do a takeoff briefing now, I prompt myself, okay, and we are over or we're not over max landing weight. I prompt myself, because that way I can make those decisions immediately. Oh, we are over max landing weight, but the airplane's on fire. We're going to turn around, land, and the two things in the Airbus that you need to do is, if you haven't had time to check the checklist, is flaps 3 landing, and packs off. Because if you're overweight, you have to go around, you will need you might need the performance of having a flaps 3 departure. So there is actually a table. If you pull out the actual checklist, there's an actual table that says that you're actually good to these weights at this temperature and this altitude. You're actually good. You're actually good to do a go around with flaps full at this weight. But if you don't have time to look at that table, if the airplane's on fire and we're circling around and landing in 3 minutes, or well, probably about 7 or 8 minutes. You don't have time to look at that table. At least you know in the back of your mind, well, the safest thing is to always do flaps 3 and packs off. And it might give us a little longer landing distance, but we're safe to go around that way. But again, the decision is made. I know before we take off, oh, we're not below max landing weight. Don't even need to worry about the checklist. We can land anytime, no problem. So these are the things that you just kind of look at every single time you do a briefing. You touch on them just to make sure you've touched on all the important things. I always say aircraft technical status and NOTAMs. It gives me a chance, a prompt to think about it. Oh, wait, we do have an MEL. There are some procedures associated with it. Let's read it again. Or, oh, wait, there is a NOTAM today. We can't do, that taxiway is closed. We have to go this way. Or there's an amendment to the top altitude on that SID, or the restriction on the SID. We've got to follow that. So all these prompts we have. So, I think a lot of people, a lot of simmers, I think, shortchange the briefing. They really think the briefing is not important. It's super important. Even if you're just flying by yourself, it really kind of makes sure that you are aligned with your own plan. You know what you're going to do. Sometimes people just like get in the airplane, they start putting stuff in the box. They don't even know what the box says, and they just press go and push up the thrust levers, and boom, the airplane gets airborne. You know where it's going, what it's doing, what altitude it's climbing to. Make sure you've read these things. Make sure you know and understand exactly what you're going to do. And it's obviously doubly important if you have 2 crew members. So on a true two or multi-crew flight deck, could be 2 or more, you absolutely need to brief the other person on what you plan to do so that they know, so that they can participate in it. They can point out any flaws potentially to your plan or anything you've missed. And the other thing they can point out as well is when the plan's being executed, if you're not executing it according to your original stated intent. So, I said, we're going to do a flaps 1 takeoff, and then you select flaps 2, and you're like, buddy, flaps 1. Oh yeah, that's right, I did say flaps 1. That's a pretty obvious example. Like that's something that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but I'm just trying to think of other things that you might do. Like you might leave the gear down a little longer than normal, just because the brakes are really hot. And and there are also some MELs that require you to leave the gear down. So you'll emphasize that in the briefing. We're going to leave the gear down for 1 minute after takeoff. So if I call positive rate, remind me that you're not going to put the gear up. So you're backing up the other guy by telling your pilot monitoring exactly what as pilot flying you intend to do. The pilot monitoring can better monitor you and say, hey, you're not doing what you plan to do. You're like, oh yes, shoot, I forgot that we're going to leave the gear down. Yes, don't bring the gear up, because you might call for it just by default, just because you always do. So these are the kind of things you might pardon me, these are the things you might need to consider. So anyways, I'm going to do a whole video just kind of explaining a typical takeoff briefing in an A320, the things you need to cover, things to look for, just because I feel like it is an important topic that most simmers just gloss over and don't think about. But I would like people to think about it. If you're a fan of my channel, you're a fan of my videos, you know I want you to fly this airplane as realistically as you're capable of, and it's not always easy. There's so much stuff to think about, so I don't want to make it onerous, but I want you to think about these things. So I am going to put that out as, I think that's the 4th video in the series. Then finally the 5th video, we're going to get into startup, pushback, taxi out. It's not going to be a short video series, but the video series I think will get faster. Like the thing about like flying an airplane is 90% of the work is done before you ever start the engines. Most of what you do after you start the engines is monitoring and reacting. But you do all the planning beforehand, so you spend a long time. Even a good quality crew, it's going to take at least 25 to 30 minutes to set up a 320. Even 2 people working together who know what they're doing, at least 25 to 30 minutes to set up a 320 for flight and get ready to push back off the gate. It's a complicated airplane, and there's lots to consider, and you need to make sure you've considered everything. And I find it always funny. There are some airlines that like to pre-board the passengers before the pilots even arrive. It's not that they like to do it, but they do it thinking they're going to save time, because they're getting the passengers out of the lounge, and the passengers are going to be happy because they're on board the airplane. And I've participated in this. I've been both as a passenger and as a pilot, sitting there and like, why are the passengers all boarded already when we get to the airplane? We're behind schedule. We're walking off of one airplane, going to the next airplane to go do this. And I can think of this. This happened especially to me. It was shortly after training on the 320 had finished. So pretty new first officer, but we had done this terribly long day. We had to do 3 legs. The first 3 legs were supposed to take 3 hours. They'd taken 8 so far because of the winter weather. And then we get back and they're like, oh yeah, no, now for the last leg, you're going to this different airplane. Oh, the airplane's already fully boarded and ready for you guys to go. You just have to show up. And I'm like, okay. And in the end, we ended up getting coffee and a donut on the way to the airplane because we hadn't had anything to eat over that 8 hours. So we were both like, the captain and I were both like, we were just already like worn down and exhausted, but like we need to eat and drink something before we do one more flight. But we walked onto the airplane, and the gate agent came down the bridge behind us and said, what do you guys need, like 5 minutes? And I just kind of like, I don't think I even looked at them. I rolled my eyes and the captain just sort of stopped and turned around and looked at them and like, 25 to 30. And the gate agent was just like floored by that. They're like, what do you mean 25 to 30? Everyone's already here on board. It's like, yeah, we're not waiting for them to board. It takes that long to set up this airplane. We haven't even seen the flight plan for this flight, so we haven't even looked at it to determine if the flight plan's adequate. So yeah, those people are going to be sitting here for an additional 20, 30 minutes. Like in the 320 series of aircraft, pretty much the time it takes to board an aircraft is the time it takes to prep the aircraft for departure. Give or take 5 or 10 minutes. It could be that the boarding sometimes takes longer, sometimes the prep takes longer, but it's similar. Now, obviously, you get into a wide body where you're talking an airplane with 300 and something people in it, 400 people in it. Okay, you could probably set up the airplane in less time than it takes to board. But in the narrow bodies, pretty much there's no narrow body, I think, that you can set up the airplane in less time than it takes to board the airplane. So I always find it funny when they think they're saving time by getting all the passengers on board already. It's like, well, we can close the door. I'm like, no, we're not closing the door until we're pretty much ready to go, because we're not going to sit here on the gate for 30 minutes with the door closed. If something happens on the gate, you've got to put the bridge back on it. There's a whole risk factor there. You know, the second the bridge goes off, now if something happens in the airplane, if there's a fire or an incident or something, boom, the you know, now we're doing a full-blown evacuation. Even for a minor situation, we're doing a full-blown evacuation, and people get injured in evacuations. It's just the way it is. You're going down this slide towards a paved surface, you know, trying to be as controlled as you can, but there's always going to be at least a couple people that end up injured during an evacuation. So an evacuation is not something you want to do lightly. If you have to do it, absolutely, and injury is better than death. But pardon me. What was I saying? Yeah, but. You know, you don't want to evacuate the airplane if you don't have to. I've done rapid deployments before where you actually get everyone off the airplane quickly, but through the main jet bridge, through the main door, not through an evacuation, because there's an elevated risk. It's not an imminent lethal risk, but there's an elevated level of risk that we need to get the airplane deboarded relatively quickly. I've had to do that before. It's a system that works quite well, actually, and I was surprised at how well it worked, and people got off the airplane within a reasonable period of time. It wasn't 90 seconds. It was probably about 4 to 5 minutes we had the airplane clear of people. It was reasonable. You know, what we had at that time was we had some smoke in the flight deck. It was not an immediately evident fire. We weren't really 100% sure that it was going to develop into a fire. But there was definitely an elevated risk. There was definitely some smoke in the flight deck, so it was an elevated risk level. We opted to deboard all the passengers while we waited for the fire department and maintenance to show up to determine where the source of this smoke was. It turned out to not be anything major, but I still stand by the decision that it was much safer getting everybody off the airplane while we determined what the risk was than leaving them on the airplane. And so if you imagine if you were sitting there for 30 minutes with the bridge off, at a gate, now you've got to think about, well, what happens if that kind of thing happens? What if we smell smoke in the flight deck? We want everyone off. Now we got to wait 5 minutes just to get us a crew here to put the bridge back on, open the door again, and then start getting people off for 5 more minutes. You know, that could be, in that time, the situation could change very substantially. So, anyways, yeah, not things you want to do. What else can we talk about as we make our way southwards? Because there's so much to talk about these days, and yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing we can talk about, of course, is the very unfortunate tragedy that happened in Washington last week, I think it was now. And there have been a number of incidents lately that are just mind-blowing in this business. And the tragedy in Washington is one that is not entirely surprising, unfortunately. As much as you want to try and think that accidents are preventable, and the U.S. has had a fairly stellar safety record for the last decade and a half, with very few incidents on U.S. soil, very few fatal airline accidents on U.S. soil. I think this was the worst accident since Colgan, which was like 2009, I think. This is the Colgan Dash 8 in Buffalo. Yeah, this was a hard one to watch too, because it's just like it was preventable. But it speaks to the mentality in the United States, unfortunately. And I hate to say it, because there's lots of good people trying to do good work in the United States. And so I hate to make this generalization, but there is a general attitude of get the job done. And if we need to cut the corners a little bit to get the job done, that's okay. And that's the general attitude in aviation in the U.S. is that, yeah, they talk a lot about safety, and there are a lot of things that are done to improve safety. But if there's a corner where we can shave off a couple minutes and make things a little bit more efficient, let's do it. It's okay. It's fine. We've got lots of margins, so we'll just cut that margin just a little bit. And this is the kind of thing Uncle Wiki says Cowboys. Not all, though. Not all. Some, yes. Some, yes, absolutely. And part of this is it's a culture thing. It's not just individuals. It's a culture thing. It's a get the job done, almost no matter what culture. And the controllers especially are forced into this. Are pigeonholed into this situation where they're understaffed. And so, but what do they do when they're understaffed in the U.S.? They just shrug their shoulders and say, well, I guess you've got to do more work faster. We have the same problem in Canada, but in Canada, we approach the problem differently. We have pretty much every ATC facility in Canada is understaffed. Some of them drastically so. Some of them like 40 to 50% understaffed. Like drastically understaffed. But in Canada, instead, we just say, well, guess what? We're just going to slow down the rate of arrivals. I mean, we still do overwork those controllers and give them too much jobs to do. There are major international airports in Canada where sometimes there are 2 controllers on shift. 2 controllers in the middle of the day on shift. There's one guy probably working tower and half of ground, and the other guy's doing like the other half of ground and clearance delivery. And it's like, we shouldn't be forcing these controllers to do this much work. So but what we will do in Canada is we will pretty much apply ground delay programs every single day to these airports that are this understaffed. Every single day. Okay, wheels up time. What time do you want? Because guess what? They're short-staffed. Staffing constraints every single day. Whereas in the U.S., they have to have a chronically bad situation. If everyone who's scheduled on shift shows up, then we are staffed. Even if the number of people scheduled on shift is still insufficient, then we are staffed and we won't have a ground delay program. It's only if people call in sick or have vacation that we start to say, okay, now we're going to have to put a ground delay program in. So in the meantime, in the U.S., they just throw the workload at these guys, and these guys are working so hard. And it's no wonder that controllers make mistakes from time to time, because they're working so hard, they're doing way more jobs than they're supposed to, and they don't have time to monitor the situation because they're just trying to play catch up all day long. And that's just it's a cultural mindset in the United States in aviation. Just get the job done is the most important thing. Stopping to think about the safety aspects seems like secondary. And that's how you end up with this helicopter route that's flying down the river. That's and even though the helicopter route was capped at 200 feet, it's like it's directly under the approach path to a runway at this airport. It's, there's going to be airplanes flying over these helicopters at 300 feet. So it's, nobody's perfect. There should be more of a margin than 100 feet between one traffic corridor and another traffic corridor. 100 feet is not a sufficient margin. That's, that's the flight test tolerance each way. The flight test tolerance is you have to be able to hold altitude within plus or minus 100 feet. So if you are supposed to be at 200 feet, you could be as high as 300 or as low as 100. And then the other airplane coming in on final, ideally supposed to be crossing at 300 feet, could be as low as 200 feet or as high as 400 feet. Like, there's 100-foot overlap in that. Like, if you consider the tolerances of what's considered acceptable for passing a flight test. Now, most people wouldn't want to be at the limit of that tolerance all the time. But that's considered an acceptable altitude variation is 100 feet. So to say that we had a 100-foot margin when the normal tolerance is 100 feet, that's zero margin right there. Like, it blows me away that we considered this acceptable for so long. And I've flown in and out of that airport many, many times. And it is a busy airport. It is a very busy airport. Those controllers are working very hard. There are lots of military helicopters flying along that river route. I've seen them many, many times. It's a constant threat. And you throw night operations on there, potentially night vision goggles in the helicopter. Like, it's just, it was sadly a bit of a foreseeable accident. And then visual separation. I mean, the human beings are only, pardon me. I am not used to talking for this long again. The human beings only can do so much. We all have physical limitations to what we can do, what we can accomplish, what we're capable of. And yeah, it's just, unfortunately, we exceeded the limits of what those human beings were capable of, and I forget the exact number, but we had about 80 people pay for that with their lives, unfortunately. More than unfortunately, tragically. I hope it'll be a wake-up call to the system, but I feel like it won't. I feel like it's going to be one of those cases where we look at this, we say, well, that particular situation was very unsafe, so we're going to we're going to get rid of that situation. So they're going to get rid of the helicopter routes. But there's other things that happen all over the United States all the time that, like, it just makes me think that, like, we pay a lip service to safety at best. Again, overwork controllers in so many facilities. You know, and I've said this before, like, and no disrespect to people who do the job, but the general attitude towards controlling aircraft on the ground at airports seems very less than thorough in the United States in a lot of cases. It seems like they kind of give it a second, they don't give it a second thought. Like, it gets across the one runway, it's like, okay, taxi to the gate. And it's like, any particular route? Like, there's 7 routes I could take to the gate. Do you want any particular one? Like, it just... or you end up with places like Chicago O'Hare where you have one controller who's doing so much work that he doesn't even have time for readbacks. On the radio, half the time in Chicago, you don't even read back any taxi instructions. The guy just, like, keys the mic, gives 17 instructions back to back, takes a breath, probably doesn't even let go of the mic, just does the next 17 instructions, does not even, no one has a chance to read it back, no time to get a question in there, confirm that you've heard the right thing. You know, yes, it behooves us all to listen carefully and make sure we've heard the right thing, but, you know, they just don't even have time to deal with readbacks in Chicago O'Hare, and so they just accept that as that's just normal. It's just been normalized deviation. It shouldn't be normal. It shouldn't be this is the way it's done. It's like the readbacks are there for a very good reason, to make sure everything happens the way you expect it to make sure you don't end up with bad situations where people are crossing and potentially hitting each other, you know, if somebody's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why can't we take that job and find a way to split it in half and make it so that that person can focus more intently on their job and be able to do it more thoroughly with a higher degree of accuracy than just giving them so much work that they have to adapt by just giving up the level of safety. And that's just it pervades the attitude in the U.S. I remember one time we were getting refueled at the gate, and the rule for refueling at the gate, if you have passengers on board, the door has to be open, the bridge has to be attached, there has to be a way for people to get off the airplane if you don't want to refuel an airplane while there's still passengers on board. It's a simple safety rule. You have to have an open exit that with either stairs or jet bridge or something that people can get out of the airplane in a hurry, but it has to be open before you commence fueling. And all the time in the US, these guys don't even look. They just pop the door open, pop the fueling panel open, hook it up, and start pumping gas without even looking to see if the bridge is on yet or not. And then they get mad at you when you tell them you can't do that. Like, I have to file a safety report now and complain to your manager about the fact you did this. Well, my shift's going to be over in 10 minutes, so if I don't get this done, you're not getting fuel. I'm like, that's not your problem. If you can't do it legally, don't do it. If your shift ends, drive away. We'll get the next fuel. We'll get the guy who comes on shift to come and do it. We'll get the manager to come and do it because it's his job to make sure stuff gets done. But you don't just say, well, I only have 10 minutes to do it before I'm off shift, so hence I'm going to break the rules and do it now anyways. That is not the right attitude at all. That is the polar opposite of the attitude you should have. Safety first, always, should be the attitude. And it just seems like, and I won't say that other countries don't have other similar issues. I definitely won't say that, because there are other countries with problems, but it just seems to be often very endemic in the U.S. that understaffed and this attitude that, well, as long as you can get the job done, that's what's important. If we increase your workload, so be it. And that mindset, it just blows me away, because when I go to work every day, I look for the threats and I do what I can to mitigate them. And if the threats are too high, we just don't go. We don't do it. We don't go until we can find a way to make it safe to go. If I'm not sure it's good to go, we're just not going to go. 100%. But other people just don't view aviation with the same level of risk. I've seen the things that can happen. I've had some bad incidents in my day. I haven't had anything too bad happen to me, fortunately, but I have had some bad things happen to me over the years. This job will kill you. 100% it will kill you if you don't pay attention to it. And people who come in and work in this industry and do it every day, they start to forget that is something. And the ramp especially, and I pity's not the right word, but I do feel bad for everybody who works the ramp, because an airport ramp is probably one of the single most dangerous environments on the planet as a workplace environment. There's almost nothing on that ramp that couldn't kill you if you're not paying attention at the right moment, at the right time. Besides the airplanes taxiing around and jet blast from airplanes trying to accelerate around a corner to try and get off the ramp. you know, there's a hazard of being sucked into the engine, blown away by the jet blast, hit by an airplane. What was it, like 2 years ago? There was a Dash 8 that hit a fuel truck. The fuel truck, the Dash 8 happened to be just in the blind spot behind the side post on the window, and in the Dash 8, the same thing. The fuel truck was pretty much, it was nighttime as well, which didn't help, but the fuel truck was pretty much right behind the post, so they didn't see the fuel truck coming. So the fuel truck and the Dash 8 collided at the airport. Fortunately, you know, the fuel truck wasn't damaged to the point where fuel leaked out or anything, but it's just like, how scary, how different that could have been if something just a little different had happened. You know, so there's collisions with vehicles. You know, there's a chance you could get crushed by a cargo bin. You know, if it slides a little bit too far, you can get your hand pinched underneath the cargo loader. You know, there's cold, there's hot, there's noise, there's vehicles driving around at random. You know, there all sorts of stuff could be flying around if it's windy or there's jet blast. You know, any kind of debris on. You know, it just there's so much out there that could kill you. There's electricity from ground power units. You know, exhaust from not just from airplanes but from all the stuff on the ramp. There's so much stuff that could kill you out there. It is like I look around at these guys running around, guys and gals running around, and it is one of the most unsafe environments in the world. And yet after like 3 months, 6 months, a year, it's normalized to the point where people don't even think about the risk factors. And I feel very sorry for these for people, and most people manage to make it through their days without getting injured. But there's so many different things out there. All these big heavy machines, any one of them could hit you. A snowplow could hit you. You get hit by flying snow from a snowblower. It's an amazing amount of stuff out there that could injure you. And it's amazing that people don't get injured more often. They do get injured quite a bit. They don't get killed very often, but I mean, there was an epidemic a while ago. Well, not an epidemic, but there was a person who was killed driving a tug when the tug flipped over while he was driving it. And you know, this was quite a while ago, 10, 15 years ago. Most of the airports never had any rule about you had to wear your seatbelt, and so most guys just simply hopped on the tug, threw it in gear, took the brake off, and away they went. Never put on a seatbelt. The tug flipped over and landed on him and killed him. And they made seatbelts mandatory after that. And then, as far as I understand, it's a 2 strikes policy with a seatbelt. You get caught twice without your seatbelt on. The third time, you're fired. And that's just they had to set the rule because they just needed people to wear the seatbelts. They had to overcome that. They had to overcome that attitude and make sure people are doing what needs to be done. You know, to make sure that they're wearing their seatbelts when they need to. That it's a safety device, and it was so long. You know, 50 years people have been driving around without these things on, so nobody wanted to do it. It's not that people wanted to do it. It was just a habit. You just got on the truck, threw it in gear, and went. You didn't think about it, and so they really had to say, like, they had to set some pretty severe consequences because they really want the policy to take hold. And I will say it has taken hold. Like, I watch these guys, and they get the seatbelt on every single time before they throw it in gear and drive away. Sometimes they drive, 5 feet before while they're putting on the seatbelt. You know, I give them some credit. They're trying to follow the policy as best they can, with also the time pressure and everything else that they're under. So, but yeah, you know, and then I feel like certainly doing this job can certainly kill you if you let your guard down. But one of the most dangerous aspects of doing this job is probably getting the airplane on and off the ramp, because there's so many things out there. There's so many vehicles and people potentially in the wrong place, and other airplanes maneuvering around, and jet blast, everything else, and even for the crew, getting an airplane on and off the gate is probably one of the most dangerous aspects of flying. Sadly, we figured out how to make everything else reduce the risk in a lot of other things. We've got, we practice V1 cuts till the cows come home, but maneuvering on a busy apron that's possibly snow covered, and then everything else is like, oh my, the level of risk is it's insane. And you do your best to reduce it and eliminate wherever you can, but you can only do so much as one person. You can't do everybody else's job for them. You can't think for other people. You've got to let them think for themselves. But yeah, it's mind-blowing. You can never forget that this job is trying to kill you 24/7, or it will. Well, on that happy note, I'm thinking we are about a little less than an hour from touchdown. I think I might refill my coffee. I am not used to talking for this long. I'm out of practice with streaming, so I might take just like 10 minutes, go refill my coffee cup, and probably use the lav, and then come back. We'll start setting up for this arrival into West Palm Beach. I'm just going to look over here. There's no controllers online right now. We're pretty far offshore. If you look at the pilot's life status here, oh my god, my voice is dying. I am not used to talking for 3 hours straight, that's for sure. Yeah, so you can see where we are here anyways. We're pretty far offshore there. Kind of heading down towards West Palm Beach. We're just a little under an hour. So yeah, I'm going to take a quick, I think, we're going to keep this pretty short. We'll try to make this about a 5-minute break here. No controllers online, so that's about right. We had controllers for departure. When we left New York, we did. We had New York departure controller online, so we had full vectors out to the white intersections. So that was great. That was nice. I didn't expect that, which is kind of a nice surprise. So we had an ATIS and everything, and it was good. But you'll have to watch this video when it comes up, Uncle Wiki, because we had some fun times trying to leave New York. It didn't all go well, but we got it done in the end. So when this video comes out on YouTube, watch the first part because it's quite amusing. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to step away for about 5 minutes, everybody, just to, like I said, refill my coffee cup, hopefully keep my throat lubed up so I can continue talking without getting too much of a frog stuck in my throat here. But yeah, we'll be back in just a few minutes. We'll set up for the arrival in Palm Beach in just a few minutes. So stick with me, everybody. I'm going to turn the volume down before I go to the outside view because otherwise it's going to be super loud. Hopefully that's not too loud for everybody. And I will be back in about 5 minutes. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you just in a couple minutes here. All right, I am back, everybody. Why do I see things over here? Is this? Not sure why I see something over there. I think it's just a shadow, anyways. Sorry. Still need to sip my coffee here. Oh, that's nice and warm, though. Okay. No controllers online. That sounds about right. All right. So we are back, everybody. Let's hop back in that flight deck because we have got to start getting ready for this arrival into Fort Lauderdale. I mean, not Fort Lauderdale. West Palm Beach. I'm thinking South Florida. I'm not thinking the right place in South Florida, but I'm thinking South Florida anyways. All right. So, yeah, let's have a quick look here. So we don't have any ATC online. Shock, shock. So we're going to go and grab a digital ATIS from the real FAA website. If I can find it. There we are. All right, so let's do D-ATIS. And let's go KPBI. Hopefully we can get a KPBI ATIS. Here we go. All right, so ATIS information X-ray, 1653 Zulu, that's pretty current, 130 at 13, 10 miles, broken 3000, broken 4100, 26 degrees, 17 degrees, 3022 on the meter. So let's go ahead and just adjust that. 3022. One of the neat things about the Airbus, if you'll notice here, when you adjust the altimeter setting, if it's already locked in alt mode, it won't go and chase the altimeter. It's locked at this altitude, period. And even if I adjust the altimeter, it doesn't actually try to get back to the 36,000 there, just because I adjust the altimeter. So you can do that all you want. It'll give you a little warning chime, but it won't. The autopilot will not try to follow that. I think in the 37 it will. If you adjust the altimeter setting, it'll try to go to that 36,000. So you can't do it in flight, but here we can do it in flight. ILS 10 left, landing departing 10 left, 14. Simultaneous approaches parallel, intersecting and or converging runways are being conducted. Land and hold shorts in effect. We don't do land and hold short. Read back all hold runway hold short instructions. Notice to air missions. Palm Beach VOR out of service. So we should probably do that. Runway 32 Rills out of service, 10 right, 28 left closed. Hotel closed between 28 right and 32. Lima closed between Delta and 32. Taxi Romeo closed between Romeo 3 and 600 feet east of Romeo 4. Wow. All aircraft use caution for 10 left. Runway 10 left, hold short bars prior to bend in taxiway. Use caution 10 right, 10 28 left is difficult to see. Runway 14 midfield. Use caution for drone activity in the class Charlie. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff here. So let's just have a quick look at this. All right. Yeah, so 10 right, 28 left, we would not be using anyways. We're not doing any LAHSOs here. All right, so let's just have a quick look at this again. So, H closed between 28 and 32. Lima closed between Delta and 32. Hotel closed. Lima closed between Delta and 32. All right. So closed between... Romeo between Romeo 3. Romeo between Romeo 3, 600 feet east of Romeo 4. Lima 4 closed, Romeo 2 closed. Lima 4, Romeo 4. Lima 4, Romeo 4. Okay, so some construction in this area, some construction in this area. We're going over here to the Charlie terminal, so that's fine. Alright, so let's just do some landing numbers, and then for 10 left, and then we should be good here. So let's just crunch some numbers. So PBI, 10 left is correct. We'll call it dry. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't. Let's apply that METAR. Landing weight, so let's come up 2 steep path ahead. Okay, thank you. Let's come up with a fuel prediction here. So prediction for landing, 61, 64.7. So we'll just round it up to... Really? Ah. Alright, let's do this. Let me just check this here. Weight and balance. So max landing weight 64,500. And we are estimated to land now at 64. 64.7. So we got to burn 200 kilos before we even get there. And that's with the extra fuel burn and everything. See, I got to change the system. See, SimBrief thinks that the 66 tons is the max landing weight. I have got to change my SimBrief because it should be 64.5. A lot of them, at least, are 64.5. So I'm going to... Yeah. I'm going to have to edit my aircraft. Okay, I'll do that later. Okay, so we're going to have to burn some gas. So we're going to start the APU now. Well, maybe we'll ride the speed brakes on the way down. Don't want to put them out too much when you're at altitude because it makes it a little... we can probably put them out a little bit here. Put a little bit of speed brake on there. So we are pretty high above the low Buffett limit. And increase our fuel burn. So we need to see this go below 3.3. We need to have 3.3 tons at landing or less. So we got to get some fuel burn out of there. Okay, so that's good. So we'll do the 64.5 ton landing weight anyways. And we'll have to put some effort into getting that down there. And yeah, SimBrief seemed to think that it should have been a 66 ton limit, but it's 64 is what it should be. So idle. So we got 10,000 feet there. Manual landing, flap full, auto thrust on, and no reverse with low auto brake still gets us a factor distance of 8,100 feet with still 1,900 foot margin. So we can definitely do low auto brake for landing. All right, the APU's running. That's going to burn about another 100 kilos. We'll probably have to ride the speed brake a little bit to get that down, but that's going to help anyways. You're going to see that flashing amber at us because we have the speed brake out, even though we've got thrust up, but that's intentional because we're actually trying to increase fuel burn right now. Not the best way to do it, but so be it. We can also start our descent a little early if we need to. But let's finish setting up first, and then we'll talk about the descent. So, I believe Dooley is where our arrival starts. Let's just pull this over here. Nope, not that. All right, so the Clement to Arnav arrival into West Palm Beach. Speed brake still out. That is okay. That is understood, and that is intentional for the time being. So clear that. That's fine. All right. So again, this should be Dooley, Crans, Bisks above 240, and then Hemsey between 19 and 15. So let's get this. Let's get constraint up. Let's put it in plan mode for now. And let's just see here. Dooley, Crans, Bisks above 24, Hemsey between 19 and 15. Looks like the next thing after that is Clement between 11 and 9, 250. Mazel, and then it says freeway. We're supposed to hit at 4,000, but it doesn't think we're going to hit it at 4,000. Well, it's okay. We can use the speed brake. That just basically that calculation is always done without the speed brake. So as long as we have the speed brake, that'll help. Let's see here. So Clement 250 between 11 and 9. Mazel freeway 4,000, and then for 10 left, I assume we're going this way. Juno Sands at 210 at 4,000. And Dolman at 4,000. Let's just see what it says here for 10 left. Cross freeway at 4,000. So we have to be freeway at 4,000. We stay at 4,000 for a long time. So it's going to be annoying, but anyways, that's what we do. It'll burn some extra gas. 4,000. Yeah. So it seems to think we're going to have a hard time getting from Mazel at 6,000. Even though we're crossing... It wants to cross Clement at between 9 and 11,000. So what if I was to change this and make you 9,000? That would probably force it in there. What if I was to do that? Does that help? Now, 9,054. Now it has no problem getting to freeway at 4,000. There we go. So that helped. It'll increase the fuel burn slightly by being a little lower, but that's okay because we have too much fuel anyways. 214 across freeway 4,000, 224 to Juno, and track 224 across Sands at 4,000, 210, then track 271 across Dolman at 4,000, 271. Expect vectors to final approach course. So we are planning an ILS to runway 10 left. Let's pull that up here. ILS local runway 10 left. Blade 11-1. Let's see here. 111.9, 099, and IPBI. So let's just look at that. IPBI 111.9 and 199 degrees. That's close enough. That's within a reasonable margin of error. All right, so we should have Wilba at above 3,000, Zizzer at 2,000. Oops. Wilba at above 3,000, Zizzer at 2,000. And then for the missed approach, it looks like straight ahead with 1,000 feet, then heading 323, intercept a course of 343 to Morga and hold at 3,000. Is that what it says? 1,000 feet, climb left turn, heading 3,000, heading 323, outbound to the Morga intersection and hold. 343 course. Yep, it's perfect. All right, so that's all in there, RadNav. We've checked. Minimums for this are going to be 216, no temp comps required today, so let's just do that. Prague, we're good. Perf. We'll do 0.79 slant 320 for the descent. And what do we got here? All right, so I've already forgot what I said. 216 for the minimums. 216 for the minimums, 3022. 216 for the minimums, 30.22 for the altimeter, and then back to the ATIS again. ATIS. Let's see here. It's 26 degrees, 130 at 13. 26 degrees, 130 at 13. That looks good. All right, 227. All right, and then for the missed approach, we're going to accelerate at 3,000 feet when we get to missed approach altitude, 3,000 feet. All right, fuel prediction, we're now showing 3.4 over, so when we get to that 3.3, we can stow the speed brakes and fly the plan. All right, so I think I got everything in there. We got the auto brake low status, oil's good, elevation's good, nothing on the status page. All right, I think we're ready. Are you ready for the approach briefing? Are you ready for the approach briefing? Any questions?
No questions.
Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
So she was still stuck because I never asked her any questions. She was still stuck in the departure briefing. All right, so I'm just going to pull this over here, make sure that this is all good here. So weather's good. Runway we'll say is dry. APU after landing, yes. ILS. General aviation threats. No auto land. Final sector, yes. Yes. EFIS is required. Minimum descent altitude is 216. Airport elevation is at like 16 feet, we'll call it. And decision height AGL is not a decision height, it's a decision. It's an MDA, so it's good. Okay, so today's arrival. We are, first of all, quick NOTAM check. Nothing technically wrong with the airplane. Quick NOTAM check. Looks like there were some NOTAMs for Palm Beach here. Come on, hide that. Make it a little easier to see. Alright, so that's all New York. Here we go, Palm Beach. So some location signs. Taxiways closed. Those are all in the ATIS. Those are all in the ATIS. PBI, nav, VOR is unserviceable, but what we're really concerned with is DMEs. As long as DMEs are serviceable, we can use it. So that's what the FMS uses. We only need to detune unserviceable DMEs. 10 left, closed, daily 630 to 1000. That's fine. Approach procedures. Procedure NA except for our suitable RNAV system. We have suitable RNAV, so that's fine. Circling categories, that's fine. Not a problem. Okay, so yeah, no NOTAMs affecting the arrival, and no problems with the airplane. So we are planning the Clement 2 RNAV arrival into West Palm Beach International, plate 10-2. The routing constraints are all in the system as published. There's a hold there at Clement, nice long hold there, but otherwise everything's as published. We're going to self-vector unless we get some ATC around for the ILS to runway 10 left. Okay, come on, easy. This is on plate 11-1, ILS or Loc 10 left, IPBI 111.9 and 099 the inbound course, 2000 at Zizzer and 216 the ILSDA. Missed approach is as published or is otherwise advised by ATC, top altitude 3000, MSA is 2600 feet, and glide slope 3 degrees, PAPI's on the right, MILSR lighting system. We do have some good scenery, so hopefully we should see what we need to. We should see PAPI's on final there and some good lighting. I hope everything looks good in the scenery anyway, so I haven't really looked at it too much yet, but there it is. RVR 2400 or half miles required visibility for this approach. Landing on runway 10 left, we'll take convenient left turn off the runway. I would expect we're going to probably get off around Delta, and then very short taxi in, probably back on Charlie 8. We're going to the gate right over here. I believe it's Charlie 8, I believe was the gate. Let's just check here. And I set it up yesterday, and now I've forgotten 100% which gate. I think it was Charlie 8. Might have been even Charlie 10. I can't remember now. Dang it. Alright, so it's either Charlie 8 or Charlie 10 anyways. Maybe it was Charlie 10. We will, yeah. So it's very short taxi in, so we'll have to watch the 3-minute timing for the engine cool down. Aside from that, let's see here. The approach configuration, so it's going to be a managed approach to a manual landing, localized low couple approach, clear for the approach arm, approach mode, second autopilot. The anti-ice will be off. The auto brake is low. We'll use max reverse and config full for landing. No noise abatement in the US anyways. Nobody cares about airport noise. Yeah, and we will autopilot come off when the runway's in sight, landing's assured, and no traffic ahead on the approach. Right now we're not expecting too much traffic. Let's see, the rad nav, everything's auto-tuned. Fuel prediction, we need to get at least 100 kilos knocked off the expected fuel on board when we land. And secondary, I'm just going to recopy the active. There's nothing really, I'm not going to land on 13, it's a bit short, so yeah, we'll go with 10 left. That also sets us up for a nice short taxi in, so we'll have to watch the timing on that, but otherwise should be good. Yeah, I think that's it. So over to you for any threats and questions. Threats, obviously an uncontrolled airport. I did pull up Unicom, right? Yes, I did pull up Unicom. It's an uncontrolled airport on VATSIM right now, so I actually should get the CTAF frequency. So let's just see. Oops, wrong button there. Let's just see here on the airport chart here. Is there just one tower frequency? I would expect so with this configuration. One tower frequency, 119.1. So I'm going to expect that to be the CTAF without even looking it up. 119.1 is ready to go for the CTAF. That's our biggest threat really, is pilots on VATSIM. Short taxi in, we'll start the timer for 3 minutes. With the APUs already running, so that's not a problem. The other threat, of course, is the fuel burn, so we do have to make sure we land with less than 3.3 kilos. Now, I find that usually, once we start our descent, we kind of burn more than expected, so I think we'll be okay. As long as I can get that predicted fuel down to 3.4, I'm sure we'll turn final with less than 3.3. but we'll keep an eye on it nevertheless. Have I missed any other threats? Anybody else out there? I haven't even been reading the chat, so if you guys are threatening anything with me here. Has ATC ever given you grief because your company forbids LAHSO? No. I will say that no, I have not. The key is that you don't want to surprise them, though. So if you're not unable to LAHSO, you want to kind of tell them right away, especially if you think that they're going to give it to you. Nobody's given us grief. That being said, like, and again, you know, part of it just comes down to setting realistic expectations ahead of time. You know, tell the controllers when you first check on with terminal controllers, we're unable to LAHSO, so don't set us up on a converging approach with anybody who's going to be converging with us, with anybody who's going to potentially need us to do LAHSO or anything like that. So tell the controllers, the terminal controllers, when you first get on there, and nobody cares. The one thing they don't want to be is surprised when you say, okay, you're cleared this approach, you can expect to hold short. Be like, nope, can't do it. And they're like, oh, well, now we got to totally change our approach plans. So yeah, I think a lot of airlines, I don't know if a lot of airlines have that policy, but I think a number of airlines do have that policy, especially when you start operating even the narrow bodies. The regionals usually are okay with it because the performance usually on the regional planes is acceptable. But once you get into the narrow bodies and wide bodies, I think a lot of the companies are just like, no. Our company just said that the risk is not worth it. There were some close calls. I think there were some close calls that didn't even involve them, but they looked at the data and they just said, this is stupid. This is a risk we don't need to be taking. And again, it kind of comes down to like what's practical. You know, if you're flying an A320, even if it's going to a 10,000 foot runway, you know, if you want to stop in 5,000 feet, you're going to be hammering those brakes pretty hard. You're going to need to dig the people's teeth out of the seats. As opposed to like a Cessna 172 using even a 5,000 foot runway, they can definitely land and stop in half that distance, assuming they don't flow down half the runway. So I think a lot of controllers tend to shy away from giving the airliners the land and hold shorts. Now, some places try to, and we just tell them we're unable. It's just company policy. It's not our choice. If you don't like it, call the chief pilot and discuss it with them. But this is the company policy. But the key is to not surprise the controllers. Don't wait till the last minute to tell them. Flight attendants, 30 minutes to landing. Yeah, but I haven't had anyone get mad about it. The one time, actually no, there was one time where the controllers got mad where I refused a LAHSO clearance. But that was back in the day when I was flying a Dash 8, and we were given a visual approach to 4 left in Boston. They had all the heavy IFR traffic on the straight in ILS to 4 right, and then they gave us a visual approach to 4 left. But the guy turned us final at 3,000 feet at like 5 miles. He's like, okay, you guys are cleared for the visual. I'm like, well, okay, we can do that. Then get on the tower controller. The tower controller's, yeah, you're clear to land, hold short. I'm like, no, we're not holding short. No, we're not holding short. Your approach controller did not set us up for a hold short clearance. If you have a problem, call the approach controller because he put us so high, so close in. I'm not even 100% sure we're going to get down to the threshold, but we're definitely not going to commit to any kind of land hold short. And the controller seemed a little taken aback by it because normally I would have accepted that in the Dash 8. The Dash 8 operator was fine with land and hold short, and most of the time I'm fine with land and hold short. The land and hold short they want us to do in Boston is it's substantial, but when you are coming in on a very unstabilized approach because the approach controller gave you a visual clearance at basically twice the height that you should be at, you know, it just I looked at it and said there's no way. I'm not committing to anything anyways. We'll be lucky if we make it down to that runway. I'm not committing to stopping. So I think it was, I feel like it was hold short of 15 left. Yeah, there's the LAHSO mark right there. Yeah, so I feel like it was you cleared to land 4 left, hold short of 15 left, and it's a good distance. If you look at the chart here, it is the LAHSO distances are always published on the second page here on the 10.9 alpha page. So for 4 left, the LAHSO distance is 5,250. That's fine to land a Dash 8 in that distance. You know, we were landing Dash 8s routinely at 4,000 foot runway, so that distance is acceptable. But just because the fact that we were given an unstabilized approach clearance, we were like 5 miles final at 3,000 feet when you should be probably about 1,500 feet at 5 miles final. I was like, I'm not committing to anything. And the tower controller did seem a little bit shocked by that, but I said, no, your approach controller screwed us over. I didn't say screwed us over, but I told him politely that the approach controller had screwed us over and that if you had a problem with it, you're going to have to talk to him because we are not going to be able to do a stable approach today. All right, here comes the top of descent point, so I'm going to go ahead and, I guess I have to put a lower altitude in there. So we're descending via, the bottom altitude on this star here in Palm Beach is 4,000, so I'm just going to do descend via all the way down. And that should be speed descent, alt magenta. Got the constraint at 9,000 that we got to hit. Yeah, so they were very. The tower controller didn't give me much more grief about it after that. When I told him that it was, when I blamed the approach controller. But I mean, if you want people to do land and hold short, one of the important criteria. I don't have any criteria anymore because I don't have that ops manual. Although I probably do have a copy of that ops manual somewhere. But for the places, for the companies that did do it, there are lists of criteria that you have to have. It has to be dry runway, no thunderstorms, no wind shear. Your performance has to be able to stop within the. Your performance has to be able to stop at least 1,000 feet before the land, the hold short distance. So for this one, 5,400, you'd have to have a demonstrated landing distance of 4,400 at least. And then there's the all important caveat of any reason the PIC believes that a land and hold short operation cannot be conducted safely. And that day, I pulled that card and I said it's not going to. I can't guarantee it's going to happen because of where we were cleared for the approach. And it's not like I had a choice where to turn base. Like, he's got us on the base leg. You have the airport in sight. Yeah, I got to get you a little closer. Okay, do you see the other traffic? Okay, yeah, from there at 3,000 feet, you're cleared for the approach. I'm like, I guess we can do it. It's a Dash 8. You can descend it pretty quickly, but I'm not going to commit. Definitely not going to commit to that line of hold short. Oh yes. Okay. So Uncle Wiki has a great question, and thinking about it, discussed this in the past, and I probably did. But do you find approach controllers in the U.S. dumping planes higher? Or is this just a VATSIM thing? That is not a VATSIM thing. That is a FAA thing, 100%. They love to do the slam dunk approach where they bring you on a base or on a downwind at like 5,000 feet, and then they're like, yeah, you see the airport? Okay, you're cleared for the visual. And it's like up to you to try and get down. And the trouble is, like, as pilots, we shoot ourselves in the foot all the time because A, we accept the approach clearance. We can refuse it at any point in time. It's like, I don't think we can make it down from there. But the second thing is that we again, being the goal-oriented people we are, we pull it out half the time. We're like, oh, like we're at 5,000 feet at 10 miles final. Can we do this? Well, yeah, we could probably do this. Okay, let's try it. And so we full boards out, flaps 2, gear down, whatever you got to do to kind of add some drag to the whole thing. And sure enough, you get down. And then the controller's like, oh, look, they can do it. I'll clear them for the same thing next time. So it's like every time we accept it, there's 3.2, so I'm going to go ahead and stow the speed brakes now. Every time we accept it, it's like we're just setting ourselves up to do the same thing next time. So it's not a VATSIM thing. It's a US FAA thing. They love the slam dunk approaches. They love to clear you for a nice visual when you're 5,000 feet on the downwind, and then they yell at you if you go out too far to lose altitude. It's like, you guys are setting us up for failure time and time again. I have had to do go-arounds because the approach clearances we were given were unstable in the U.S. before. So that one in Boston, we did manage to land that airplane, and we did stop before the hold short point, but I was not going to commit to it 100%. In case we were carrying extra speed and floating a little bit through the touchdown zone, I did not want to commit to that hold short. But Atlanta's one where they can be bad for that. They'll give you vectors that not only keep you high, but they'll also keep you fast. That they'll suddenly clear you for the approach, and you're just barely on the glide slope, but you're doing 240 knots. And you're like, I have no way to slow down once we start descending here. And so you start going down, and there was one approach we did in Atlanta where, we were trying, and we were kind of getting there, and it was slowing down, but it was like we were way behind the 8 ball. It's not because of wasn't really our fault per se. We were following the instructions we were given, and then we're cleared for an approach at 240 knots. And if you descend on a 3-degree glide slope at 240 knots, you won't really decelerate even at idle if the airplane's clean. So we were managing with the boards to slowly get it configured, but by about by 1,000 feet, I think we had the full configuration, but we're still like 30 knots fast. And the pilot I was flying with ended up hand flying it, and we started drifting below the glide slope, and he was still fast. I was just like, no, just go around. This is stupid. Like, why are we here? Why are we putting ourselves in this situation? And then they have the nerve to ask us, well, why did you do the go around? It's like, well, we were unstable because we were given an approach clearance too high, too fast, too close. And then the controllers always act indignant when they hear that. It's like, well, you guys just don't know how to fly airplanes. It's like, no, we know how to fly airplanes. You just don't know how to handle airplanes. We know how to fly airplanes. We were trying desperately to try and get the airplane to slow down, but there's only so much you can do. Airplanes, jets especially, are not designed to slow down. They're designed to go fast and have very low drag. So when you want to slow down, especially once you get in a glide slope, that's kind of the key. Is like if you do not have at least one stage of flaps extended when you intercept a glide slope, there's a good chance, unless you're already going very slow, there's a good chance you will not be able to slow down enough to extend them. If you're already over the flap speed, you haven't put down that first flap, and you hit the glide slope going down at 3 degrees, if you're doing 230 knots, that's a good 1,400, 1,500 foot per minute descent. You're not going to decelerate. So you need to have at least one stage of flaps before you hit the glide slope. I found that to be pretty much true of every aircraft. I don't think there's any aircraft I've flown where you, any jet aircraft I've flown where you couldn't, where you, oh, and now we're above the path here. Yeah, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, I don't think there's any airplane I've ever flown where, any jet you've ever flown, where you could hit the glide slope above the flap speed and then decelerate. If you can, it's just barely, and it's like it's struggling to slow down at all. ATC attitude sounds about right. Yeah, it's that attitude of, well, everyone else does it. It's like, yeah, but they might be lighter than we are today. Today we might be heavier than normal. And if you fly the 320, the 321 especially, she does not slow down. Especially if you're trying to fly these idealized profiles, and if they're trying to get you to go fast and then slow down, it's like, yeah, this thing is heavy. It's not going to slow down and go down. You're going to need to pick one. And if you want both, I'm sorry, but you're out of luck. And that's the trouble. It's like the controllers, because so many pilots do manage to do it, that the controllers plan everything that way. They plan all the approaches that way. Oh, it's fine. Everybody else can do it, so we'll assume that these guys can slow down. But meanwhile, like, yeah, no, how are we 8,000 feet high on this now? We started the descent at the appropriate time, and somehow we're 8,000 feet high. But why we slowed down so much, too, I don't know. So I'm going to crank the speed up to try and get us down, because I don't know what happened here. For some reason, it brought the speed right back. I wasn't paying much attention here, and we're 8,000 feet above the path. So let's get the speed picked up, and that'll get us back on path here. Something did not get planned correctly here. Of course, it's my job as a pilot to monitor it and make sure it happens, it's executed as it should be. So I'm not shifting blame. I'm just was not paying enough attention here. I'm shifting my blame onto Travis. He distracted me. It's all your fault. All right, it looks like we'll get on path, so it looks like we will just hit that Clement restriction. And actually, the Clement restriction was 9 to 11,000. I just hardened the 9,000 to make the profile a little more reasonable. The trouble is I'm not giving myself any room to decelerate here as well, so I'm going to have to probably pull the speed back here momentarily. Got ourselves caught out here. I don't know how we got 8,000 feet high so quickly. We're getting down there. All right, so there is standards of 3022, which works out to 1023. All right, so 3022 inches is set and cross-checked. And let's cross-check that against the ATIS and make sure I have the correct one from the ATIS here. Where's my ATIS there? I'm going to hit refresh on this, see if there's a new one. Nope, it is 3022. It is good. All right, good to go. All right, so we're going to have a hard time hitting the speed and the altitude window. So what I'm going to do is right about 14,000. We're going to manage it because it was 11. We're going to kind of be a bit high here. Okay, now we'll manage it at 12. She's having a hard time getting down. She's having a hard time getting down. Don't even have the anti-ice on or anything, but she's just... And sometimes it's the way it is. Sometimes the numbers don't quite work out. The speed, the wind speeds, the actual wind speeds are not quite as the forecast. Yeah, we're going to cross Clement way over 250 here, unfortunately. I'm trying to do everything here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and manage the speed there. It'll start bringing the speed back and reducing our rate of descent. And get our speed back there. Speed will come back pretty quickly, but I don't know. We've got 3.5 miles. We're definitely not going to get 250. But we're going to get in the right ballpark here. We're almost in the altitude window, too. We're getting it close. We're cutting it very close here. If I just do this... Okay, so now it's increasing the rate of descent because it's approaching its window. Oh, we are so close here. Oh, we almost made it. We're within 10 knots. We were about 400 feet high as we passed Clement. That's not bad considering where we started from. It's not bad considering where we started from. Still above the path. got to make freeway at 4,000 here, which is ridiculous. Okay, so let's go ahead and do...
Set.
Any questions?
No questions.
I don't think we have a descent checklist here, right? This is only approach checklist? Yeah. Approach checklist. Approach checklist.
Baro Ref.
3022 inches set.
3022 set. Seatbelts.
Ladies
On.
and gentlemen, we'll be arriving at our
Minimum.
destination shortly. If you are making a connection,
216 feet set.
please see the customer
Auto
service
brake.
agent meeting this flight or video monitors inside the terminal for connecting.
Low armed.
information.
Engine mode selector.
Norm.
Flight attendants will now walk through the
Approach
cabin
checklist
secured for
completed.
landing. We'll be collecting all service items, newspapers, and any other items. you
All right,
wish
we're
to
getting
discard
close
or leave
now.
on
We are
the aircraft with you.
30 miles out from Palm Beach. So I'm going to switch to the CTAF here.
Please turn off all electronic devices.
You want to see the pilot? Is that what you want to see?
Carry-on items. Please use caution when opening overhead bins and
It's nice to have someone sitting next to you. It's nice to have the reactions. It's a pity that they don't follow the SOPs that I'm used to. They follow the standard Airbus SOPs, which I am not used to. Otherwise, it'd be really nice. Like, I find I don't fly with them because they're not close enough to the SOPs I'm used to. The Airbus SOPs especially are very short. The checklist, they're very short. All right, coming into the path here, which is good. And we're just going to cruise along at 4,000 the whole rest of the way. Palm Beach traffic, JetBlue 1961, 25 miles north of the field, descending on the Clement arrival for the ILS 10 left Palm Beach. All right, so we're pretty much on path there. I'm going to go ahead and kill the path. We do have the seatbelts on. The AP is still on. We're at 3,600 kilos now, which means I think when we turn final, I think we'll have 33, especially because we're going to be trucking along at 4,000 here for a good 15 miles, 20 miles. Let's see here. What was I looking for? I was just going to put on my VATSIM window, just make sure I don't see any controllers online. I don't see any controllers online today. I don't even see much traffic. I'm just going to pull up VATSPy as well and see if there's anybody else going to Palm Beach besides us. And the answer is no. We're the only people going to Palm Beach, so be it. All right, but we're getting there. We are getting there. We're just about ready to go here. All right, it looks like we're falling above the path a little bit here. 5,000 ascending 4,000, thank you. Gonna make sure we hit freeway in 2.1 miles at 4,000 feet. That was a weird little jump there. Voice recorder will back me up. Alright, so there is Speed Alt Star. Speed brakes are stowed. Level 4,000. Alright, there's the turn at freeway. Alright, we're going to maintain 250 knots for now just to get us there, because we're actually not doing too bad. Like, our scheduled arrival time was in 14 minutes. We might actually get to the gate on time or even early, and I can't remember which gate I set up here. Because I went in yesterday and I kind of... Really? I preset some of the... I made sure the Marshaller and all the stuff was in the right position. It's not that big a deal. But I can't remember if it was Charlie 8 or Charlie 10. Maybe it was Charlie 10. I cannot remember for the life of me. There's one thing I could do. So the one thing I did to find the gate was I went to FlightAwares. So I'm just going to look at my FlightAware for a second on my other computer here. Just give me 1 second, and I'm just going to see if I can pull up the JetBlue flight. Not yesterday, but it was, yeah, it was yesterday's flight. And see what gate they went to, because that was the one that I then ended up using. So see if I can find it here. So not today's flight, because I think today's flight, I think it's once a day, and I think it's en route right now, schedule delayed. Arrived Thursday, so Wednesday. Wednesday, JetBlue, this one here, I think it was. Charlie 10. So it was Charlie 10. Okay, so let's do that. Let's pick Charlie 10 for the gate. Just because I set it up. I set up the I spent a little bit of time just configuring GSX just to kind of make sure everybody was in the right place. So Charlie 10. So West Palm Beach is, I think that's the airport right there, I think. Not bad though. It was a little janky near New York. The frame rate was kind of dying a little bit near New York, 15 frames sometimes, just with all the New York scenery. Oh, there goes approach phase activated. I'm not going to activate approach phase yet. We're going to do speed select at 250. I'm not going to slow it down. Oh, actually it does need 210. Sorry, I missed that restriction there. 210. Sorry, I do need 210 at Sands. So 210 knots is selected. But yeah, now as we approach South Florida, where I do have custom scenery, but it's not nearly as crazy as like the New York City scenery, easily maintaining pretty much solid 30 frames per second here, which is enough for me to feel like this is smooth. I don't know about you guys, and you may not be seeing the same thing I see, because of course then everything's got to be encoded, recoded through Twitch and everything. You may not be seeing it as smooth, but for me, I'm maintaining pretty much a solid 30 frames per second on the way in here, which is great. It used to be once you got close to the ground, it's like 30-ish, maybe 20-ish, but now here, this is pretty solid right now. There's 210 knots, nice. Fuel on board 3480. I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to land with 3,300 kilos or less, so I think we're doing good on the fuel. Wilba at 3,000. So basically, I'm just going to follow this downwind until we get a beam Wilba and go to 3,000 and go intercept that final there. Self-vector. Nobody else, anyways, flying into West Palm, unfortunately, on VATSIM. We're kind of on our own. And this is the funny thing you ever noticed about South Florida, too, but it's like, it's funny how it's just like the whole coast is developed like crazy, and then you just cross this line, this straight line, all of a sudden it's all wildland. And now here's some more development here, but it's like, there's no like transition area. It's just like houses, neighborhoods, road, wildland. And it's just like such a defined boundary. There's no transition between the wild land and the urban land. It's just, yeah. I always find that a little bit weird when you see Florida, especially South Florida. You pass a certain distance from the beach, nobody wants to live anymore. All right. There goes Dillman. Just trying to get to Wilba. I think I've been to Palm Beach. I think I've been to Palm Beach a couple times. I have to look it up in my logbook. I've definitely been there at least once. At least once in the airline era, and then probably a couple times when I was doing charter before that. I feel like I've been there at least a couple times. Maybe. You can never tell. I've been to so many places sometimes, it's easy to forget where you've been, where you haven't. It has been 25 years. Alright, just getting a beam Wilba, and then we'll turn inbound here. But yeah, like, American controllers would love to slam you for a visual right now. 4,000 feet, 5 miles on a downwind. Yeah, you can do this, and I probably could, but it's like, I don't want to start out unstabilized. I want to be able to keep the aircraft under control. Don't want to be forced to do a go-around. So quiet on VATSIM. And now I'm starting to get transparency in my head here. It's getting too bright outside or something, I think. Too late to adjust things now. I don't think I can adjust anything right now. Just got too much shine on my head on this side. This side, it's all shiny. My head is semi-transparent. Turn it down just a little bit. There we go. My head is no longer semi-transparent. Okay. It's good enough. Let's go to a heading of 190. Alright, heading 190. 3,000 feet. Thrust idle open descent, all blue, 3,000 feet set, and I'll take the direct Wilba radial in. So you go direct Wilba, and then the radial in 280, that's opposite of 100, that makes sense. And that's what it looks like, that's what I want to do. But then as soon as you insert it, it goes into nav, and you start getting an intercept. So as soon as you get nav blue, you pull heading and just go back to heading mode again. And there we go, see? And then we're going to cross Wilba at or above 3,000, and that's fine. You can see where the The white hockey stick is there for the start of the descent on the glide slope, so we're actually out farther than we need to be at 3,000. But that's fine, that's fine. We are good. Just get about a mile closer to the localizer, and then we'll turn inbound. Just give yourself enough room to set yourself up for success. That's the key. All right, there's speed, alt star. There's 3360 on the gas. By the time we get final here, we're going to be good. Let's see here. So I'm going to set heading 130 to intercept this runway 10 left, alt, and we're going to go ahead and push the buttons there. So we got localized low blue, Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1 and 2. It does help if I put on the LS button there. That does make it a little easier to spot the localizer. Aha. Let's go flaps 1. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Palm Beach traffic. JetBlue 1961 is joining a 14-mile final, runway 10 left, Palm Beach. Probably did not need to go out that far. In reality, you can see where the top descent point is there. It's quite a bit closer, but oh well. That's okay. Gives us time to get ourselves established, slowed down, configured. Any second there. There it is, Lokestar. I see the runway out there, so I was going to say, we're getting close to it. Nice, nice. I see the glide slope coming, looking good. We got the airplane slowing down. We got the flaps 1 out. We're doing good. Uncle Wiki says the reason no one lives there is because the pest control for alligators is expensive. Loke. Yeah, probably true. We have it in our route briefing notes that you have to be aware of 4-legged reptilian hitchhikers with sharp teeth that try to climb on the airplane and fly back from Florida to home base with us. Yeah, she says that in her route briefing notes. It's hilarious. They put funny things in there so people actually pay attention and read them. Glide slope star. Missed approach altitude of 3,000 feet is set. See, we're doing okay because we're below the flaps 1 speed. We're even below the flaps 2 speed now. So we're doing fine. But if we were at 220 knots here and they cleared you for the approach, even if you're below the glide slope, if you can't get below the flap speed before you start descending on the glide slope, usually you have a hard time catching up. You are brave to be able to do VATSIM. I think I can handle VATSIM. Glide slope. You do have to have a good sense of what you're doing. I mean, that's the gist of it. You have to know what you're doing. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. And
Radar altimeter alive.
Roger. If you say I can't, I say give us a try in Canada, because I do find I agree with Travis that. All right, let's go. Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Speed's managed.
Checked.
I do find that, like, American controllers, they can be very hardcore, and very often they're very busy. I would suggest trying us in Canada. We're very easygoing. All right. There's Zizzer, and let's go ahead and go gear down. Gear down.
Gear down.
You see what I mean?
Be seated for landing.
Even with the gear out and flaps 2, we're having a hard time decelerating here. The gear's coming down slowly. Oh, you know what? I didn't actually get the gear down because I have to move the switch. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But we're having a hard time decelerating without the gear down. Even with the gear down, we're just barely creeping under that flap speed there. Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist completed. 1000.
Palm Beach traffic. JetBlue 1961, 2 miles final, runway 10 left, Palm Beach. A little faster than ideal, but the speed is trending in the correct direction. We're now within 10 knots of our target speed. We're doing okay. Really need to have the speed stabilized by about 500 feet. Configured by 1,000. Speed and other parameters, the dynamic parameters in limits by 500 feet. All right, here we go. See if I can remember how to land this thing. It's been a while since I landed this in. Cat 1.
Checked.
Land.
Checked.
100 above.
100 above.
Check.
Minimum.
Minimums.
Continue.
Checked.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 5.
Spoilers. Reverse green. Diesel. $70 knots.
All right, manual brakes. She did not want to decelerate there. All right, starting the timer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the conclusion of our
After
flight.
landing checklist.
Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until the captain has
Radar and
turned off the
predictive wind
seatbelt
shear
sign
system.
and the aircraft is parked
Off.
safely at the gate.
After landing
This will be
checklist
your
completed.
indication it is
All right,
safe
welcome to
for
Palm
us
Beach.
gather your belongings
Let me do
and
this.
depart.
Palm Beach traffic. JetBlue 1961 is clear of runway 10 left, taxiing to the terminal.
Hope to see you again on a future
It'll be the
flight.
first exit. Charlie 10 is over here, somewhere behind where the fire truck is. And smooth like butter, thank you. The frame rate does still drop a little bit when I get close to the ground, I find still. I don't know if I should do something about that, if I should tweak it a little more. But it's Fenix. It's Fenix. It's all my other airplanes. They're fantastic. Even the PND 237 with this new video card is fantastic. It's just Fenix. It just hogs so many resources. When it gets close to the ground and starts playing in ground effect, it just seems to go even harder. So the other problem I have now, and this has become a little bit of a problem, and it seems to be getting worse day by day now, is that my tiller axis is a little bit screwed up here. So this is apparently a problem with the TCA. If you have the Airbus side stick and you turn the side stick as a tiller, the potentiometer that is actually used for that, so it has Hall effect sensors for the left to right and the up and down, but the twisting for the tiller, after a year or so, the potentiometer starts to get crushed a little bit by its support housing within the joystick itself. So after a while, it starts to always steer left because it always gets crushed on the left side because of the design of the support housing. So I might have to go in there and try and move it a little bit and mess with it. So I believe Charlie 10 is this one here with the big tug sitting there. All right, how are we doing for time? We've got 2 minutes. By the time we get in the gate, we'll have 3 minutes. I love it. Get the taxi lights off. Taxi lights off, accumulator's good, the engine anti-ice is off, and confirm the weather radar is off. You don't want to miss that. And then I missed the gate while I was looking down for a second. That's okay. So yeah, it steers left if you don't do any steering, and it also tends to, if you steer left, it tends to keep on steering left, quite hard left. So it's a little frustrating to kind of deal with. If you're putting active input to the right, then it kind of recognizes that, but the second you let go, it defaults to like turning left. I thought you were about to cross your arms. All right, we are here. All right, it's on. And Masters 2 and 1. Please remember to submit your flight. Thank you. All right, just make sure the engines are turning off. They do appear to be cycling down. All right, we can go ahead and go beacon off. And that'll trigger everything else. What the? I've never seen that before. I have to say, I've never seen GSX do that before. That really caught my eye. That was fantastic. Little Easter egg there, I guess, at GSX for you if you're paying attention. Deboarding requested, but it didn't operate the jetway on its own, so I guess I'm going to have to do it myself. Sometimes I find I do. I have to just activate these things myself. So, okay, fine. Not here. Yes. No. Here. I can do it there. And that'll do it. And that'll help us do that. Parking checklist.
Parking brake or chocks?
Set. On. Set. Set and checked.
Engines.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking checklist completed.
All right, we are here with our crazy ramp person who keeps doing weird moves, and now she's moonwalking backwards. I don't know what she's doing. Let's not do that one. Let's do this. And let's just do that, because that just normalizes it for me. There we go. But welcome to West Palm Beach, everybody. Why? I swear I turned those lights off. I remember turning them off as we walked into the gate, so why are they still on? And I think the reason is because she turns them back on. If they're not, that's the only problem with FS2 Crew is I can't access the sim to find out what the modules are doing right now, so it just assumes things are on or off and flips the switch without knowing their current status, which is kind of annoying sometimes. But anyways, there we are, everybody. Welcome back to terra firma. We made it safely. Got it all done in the end, despite some glitches at the start of the stream, and we will get this out there on YouTube for everyone to watch. But let's go ahead and just submit that flight. And yeah, it's been a long time. It's been way too long since the last time I had a chance to stream, and it's just the way life worked out. I'm sorry. I regret that I couldn't stream sooner. It is what it is, and I get to it when I get to it. I'm hoping that it will not be 7 weeks again before the next stream. I definitely plan to try and get them in every 2 weeks-ish now, but we'll see what happens. There's our next flight coming up is Palm Beach back to New York Kennedy now, so it's just a little change up there. New York Kennedy. JetBlue does a lot of back and forth. Kennedy, Fort Lauderdale again, then down to Mo Bay, which I haven't been to before. So that's going to be a new little adventure when we get down to Mo Bay next time. But that'll be a couple streams out. Lots of stuff happening in the Pilot's Life client here today. I have 8 unread messages, almost all of which are event polls, except for, of course, I had an income credit, $123. So now I have I got $3,100 in bank account, and I've almost got $5,000. This flight didn't quite put me over, but the next flight will. I'm going to be a senior first officer after I complete the next flight, and I don't know what my pay rate is going to go up to, but it's not a bad pay rate, actually, right now with $52.73 per hour. That's a pretty good pay rate. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, nevertheless. Oh, and I'm sorry, I have this. You guys aren't even seeing what I'm doing here. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that I was not. I was streaming the game, but not the screen. Yeah, so there's the Pilot's Life right now. Next flight, as I said, we got a bunch of stuff left to do here. Hopefully, we got a near perfect score on that flight. Yeah, so next we got to go back to JFK, Fort Lauderdale, Mo Bay, and eventually ending up at JFK, and then that'll be the end of season, what are we on, 13 now? I think this is season 13, so not quite 100 points. I missed a point there somewhere. Somewhere I missed a point. What did I miss a point on? Landing light on for takeoff. I thought I got that, but maybe the rejected takeoff, I don't know, something. With the rejected takeoff, who knows, things got a little wonky, and they can't complain for a score of 99. I have been getting 100 pretty consistently, so I'm a little disappointed, but not terribly disappointed. Yeah, but that's what we're up against next time. Maybe next week. We might even get one in next week because I do have a bunch of days off next week. Next week is like the most number of days off I have in 1 week, so maybe next week, if not, hopefully the week after. But stay tuned to the channel anyways. This will come up on the YouTube soon. Stay tuned for the future A320 tutorials because they are going to come. infrequently, not because I don't want to do them, but just because it takes time to get them out there. I do put a lot of time into making sure that they are accurate. I usually watch it through twice before I actually release it to make sure and fix any little glitches, technical problems, and it takes time. It takes time to watch it through from end to end carefully, not just like sort of half watch it like we tend to watch things nowadays on TV where you're not really watching because you're scrolling your phone and not really paying attention, but really actually look at the screen, make sure everything is spelled correctly, everything is appearing where it's supposed to, the squares are where they're supposed to, there's no cuts with sudden blackness. Like, it's amazing the number of glitches you find when you think you're done the video and then you watch it, you compile it, you watch it one time, you're like, oh, I've got 17 things I've got to fix before I regenerate it and try and publish it online. So, yeah. Anywho, I guess GSX is not coming to unload anything. Whatever. I don't care. We got it done, and yeah, that is my stream for the day, guys. So thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm always super happy to have you guys watching and sharing and chatting and talking about aviation. I love it more than I probably should. I love watching just that engine just rotating there. I don't know how well you can see that on the screen, but at the HD, you should be able to notice the fact that the fan blades are still turning in the breeze there on that engine. But anyways, I got some stuff to do today this afternoon, so I gotta head out. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys out there on the YouTube channel, on the Twitch channel, and also when I get a chance, I'll also be out there on VATSIM as well. So I'll see you guys out there wherever we run into each other. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you out there in the friendly skies. Take care.